Hey, good morning. Man, good morning. We never do an actual morning stream. Good God. Welcome back. It is Saturday, day 2 of the Inkjam. So we decided this weekend to do a game jam, try to throw together a game for the Inkjam. Let's see if we can bring that up. Yeah, let's just do a little recap of what everything we got going on so far. So if we go, it's going to be Inkjam itch. Here we go. Let's bring this up. So this is a little game jam. It's running for 3 days. The thing about it is we have to use this game engine, which is good for making kind of text-based adventure games or visual novels or things like that called Ink. We've played a few games that run using Ink on this channel. They're pretty cool. I like it a lot. It's really fun to write up the like visual novel kind of adventure game stuff in the scripting language. We decided, perhaps in an ill-fated decision, to try to also involve Unity. So there's a library that lets us link together the things that are happening, basically run the Ink engine and Unity side by side, and let them pass information back and forth to each other. Which seems to be going, it's okay. We're spending a lot of time figuring out how to do just kind of basic stuff. So let's look at the, let's finish up with the prompt and stuff here though. So if we look at, our prompt is the other thing that we have, which is for this jam, it is you'll think of something, which hasn't been super specific. But it's pretty open-ended. You probably could make pretty much whatever you wanted with you'll think of something. But we did some brainstorming yesterday. We have this idea that you are a chef. You got to pay the rent somehow. You're all broke. You got no ingredients. You got nothing. And so we're going to run around the world and gather up ingredients to make food to sell to try to pay our rent. You got to think of something to get there. We had this idea that like the recipes are going to be like a weird conversation with the thing that you're trying to cook. Increasingly, I'm not sure that's a good idea. We're not married to that yet. We're not locked into it. We wrote up a little sample test script, but just like when we were trying to write it yesterday, I felt very stuck trying to figure out what that would even look like. We were, trying to answer questions like, what is the point of that conversation? Are they trying to tell you, give you clues about the ingredients that you'll need? Are they trying to, you have some kind of an interesting conversation with this dish? What is the point? And I think we never really nailed that down. And so as a result, I'm not sure that idea works. We might change it to something like having a conversation, because we want to use this Ink engine, right? So we might change it to something like having a conversation with our patrons or customers or whoever is buying this food from us that we're trying to sell to pay the rent. And so people will say like, oh, I want a PB&J, and we go out and look in the world and try to find ingredients for it or something. Not really sure. What we did yesterday was we just tried to build like the very kind of skeleton of this game, try to get the most basic mechanics working. Like I said, we ended up spending a lot of time just trying to get the basic stuff to work. So I can show you what we have right now. Basically what we've got right now, morning. Hey, Giant Spatula, what's up? Basically what we've got this morning is, we wrote some code. And we can move around a character. This is what we can do. We can move around one character with the arrow keys. Easy enough. That's our little chef. We can tell when things collide. I realized we should have done... I was looking at the code, the sample code that they had for the ink thing. And I think we did all this crazy stuff to make the collision detection work. Running vacuum on some DBs and watching graphs and playing Psychonauts. Oh, man. Those are good... running vacuum on a DB and just chilling out, doing some other stuff. It's a good passive activity. It's like having a podcast on in the background or something. I realized they have this like add listener function, and probably this is what we were supposed to do to make this collision stuff work. We ended up doing this kind of crazy thing where we like defined collision detected, and then we made it so that like the child object, when it detects a collision, like passes up an event basically to its parent object. It's a little bit funky. I think that was probably not the right way to do it. But we're not going to change it. It works. We're going to leave it alone right now. So we can move our guy around. We can detect when he collides with another object. Did you learn more by doing it yourself? Yeah, I would say we learned more. It's been slow. I think for this, one of the big lessons already out of this is that, like, maybe you learn more that way, but like if we're trying to produce something in a short amount of time, we should have just grabbed as much like prefabricated stuff as we could and tried to just staple it all together so we could focus on like the more interesting part maybe, which is the content rather than the mechanics. But anyway, so we can detect when we collide almost. That's a hell of a collision. This is one of the items on our list for this morning. And then we go into a little conversation tree, which is written in ink. You sit down to prepare another meal. These buttons need to be wider. That's something that we need to fix. Blah, blah, blah. We can click through our story. And when we get to the end, now we can move again. So we can go back and forth between these two modes. There's a lot that we can do with this base. We might ditch the idea of talking to the recipes. It's interesting. I like it. It seems really hard to make it kind of work in practice. We can fuss with it a little bit more. I think that's what we want to do all this afternoon. Is like this morning we want to try to get to a place where like all of these mechanics are kind of working, even if they look bad. Like, you know, we want to display all of the text on the button. We want to make, you know, this moving around, maybe moving from scene to scene stuff all work, so that we can start actually figuring out what the content of this game is going to be. And then maybe tomorrow, if we can, tomorrow we'll continue doing that and try to just polish it up and draw, you know, pictures and stuff like that. So the things that we want to do today or this morning. So my thought is originally we'd put this down as a 12-hour stream. That seems ridiculous. So what we're really going to do is going to go for a while this morning, take like an hour for lunch, come back and do some more in the afternoon and the evening. So what I want to do this morning, organize UI. I did this a little bit before the stream. Not enough to be good, but enough to be coherent because the buttons were like all over the place when we were doing it before. So instead of organize the UI, we'll say make buttons, show all the text. So the buttons need to get wider if there's more text. We need tighter collisions. So you saw that those things counted as touching each other, even though they were like 1,000 miles away. So I think that we can make the collision box be like around the sprite, but we got to figure out how to do that. And then scenes that slide. This is the hard part. We want this kind of, I think that this is something that we can do and would make a big difference in like making this look sort of polished. Or worthwhile is to have these scenes that slide. And so to have like a scene with stuff in it, you go to the edge of the screen and it slides over to another screen with new stuff on it. I think that we can make that work. That's something, if we can get all of this done this morning, I think we'll be in good shape. It's a lot to do. Let's see what we can do. Make buttons, show all the text. That seems like a reasonable place to start though. And probably a good Google search. So we'll say Unity, button. Oh good, it's made a new tab on top of the chat. Good. Unity, button, stretch for text. Bam, what do we get? How to make the buttons resize to their child text. Okay, I feel kind of stupid. I've been looking at the problem for 2 nights, and after writing my question, here's the answer I found almost right away. How to put a content fitter on the panel. Panel, horizontal layout group, content size fitter. Oh, so we can put this on our canvas. So I was looking at the test project that we saw, and I was trying to look at their buttons to figure out if they'd like put something special on their prefab buttons to make them stretch. But it looks like maybe this is something that we have to put on the canvas. So maybe I was looking in the wrong place. Child size, width checked. Okay, so we do add a component to this canvas. We can call this layout maybe. We want content size fitter. Okay, so we go content size fitter, and we put horizontal fit equals preferred size. Let's see what that does. Before we do anything else, let's just see if that will stretch our things. We might need to change our... No, okay, so that didn't work. And then our button, they say we need horizontal layout group, child controls side width. Okay. So if I go button, horizontal layout group, child control side with check, rest unchecked. Oh, if I go to, we have a vertical layout group. If I let my control child size width, that it seems like the opposite of child control size width. But let's see. I think this person just mistyped this. Yeah, there you go. You sit down to prepare another meal. Try to remember the recipe. Ooh, but the clicking. Okay, but look at this. This is crazy. Our long line of text became super long. This is better. We're closer, but it's putting all of our text on one line now. So maybe that's something that we can unset in. Sit down to prepare another meal. Try to remember the recipe. Why doesn't this button work? Unless I click all the way over there? Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Okay, so if I click... this whole button works, it seems like. But that other one, for some reason... Some of these buttons, the click boxes are a little funky. Oh, boy. This is not what I want to be stuck on. Okay. I didn't want the panel to resize, so I added an empty game object in between the panels and the buttons. Child control size width checked. So if we also put this on the button, will that do something? So if we also put a layout, horizontal layout group, maybe on this button itself, and can I say child control size width? We're just copying the settings that they're suggesting. Let's see. No. That's not what I want because it didn't fix the clicking, and also it made our text invisible, which seems bad. Okay. How can we make our story text? I need to know a little bit more about Unity here. Child force expand? No. Everything else unchecked. Let's see. We're just... Well, that's not good. No, I don't think that's better. Okay, sit down to prepare another meal. So why did that kind of work? In a weird way. Because the story text actually expanded to show everything. Oh, boy. For meat is fine. Ba 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 ba. Size delta equals original delta. Size it as the old one. Just enable best fit property of text component of a button. And provide minimum and maximum font size that you want your text to be. It will automatically adjust text size. It can't be that easy, can it? Could you imagine? Okay, so let's take this. What if we take this off our canvas? It's rough that there's like 3 different ways to do these things that seem to work different amounts. So let's do child size, force expand width again. And then on our button, when we make it, or when we add the text to the button, let's see. Choice button instantiate, set parent, choice text, dot text. And so we can do choice text, dot text, dot, choice text, dot, we don't want to set the text. Let's look at Unity documentation real quick. Scripting API, this will work. So we want the best fit, whatever. No? Preferred resize text for best fit. Should the text be allowed to auto resized? That's gonna make the text bigger and smaller. Resize text max size, I think. Should the text be allowed to be auto resized? I don't think that's quite what we want. Can we look at let's look at a button. I see. So this person's suggestion was, instead of trying to change the size of this box, try to change the size of the text, which is not really quite what we want. Maybe we should read about... I tried to read about layout groups. The documentation was kind of a pain. And the tutorials all kind of are very... I mean, as a tutorial maybe should be. Are more about showing us how to do something in one very particular way than teaching us how the thing actually works. So it's just like, make it this, set all these settings, and it doesn't like explain what they are in the ones that I could find. Is active and enabled, blah, 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 transform, image, interactable. Okay, so what do we have right now? I just want to get past this part so we can do some more interesting coding here. But this is just going to be like, configuring this Unity stuff. Try to remember the, right. And we know that if we go to our control child size width, so this will make all of the buttons take up the whole screen, which maybe is fine. Use child scale for height. Sit down to prepare another meal. Try to remember the recipe. Oh, but this still has the button clicking problem, and then this also is too wide. Right. How did they do it here? Okay, so they add their text. Text trim. We have to look at their text prefab. Let's look at their Unity project and see if we can figure out how that's supposed to work. Got it. This one. Look at their buttons and see if there's... I forgot to inform you that I just went inside a giant cake in Psychonauts. We're going to do an even better cake. Our cake will be 10 times as better as the one as the one in Psychonauts. Curse them. They're stealing all our ideas. Ugh, I should have known. We should have known they'd be listening into the stream, stealing the ideas that we come up with. Those sneaky people at Double Fine. You hate to see it, honestly. This is exactly the same as when Fortnite made the Among Us mode last week. It's the exact same thing. Okay. Let's see if we can steal this from this basic demo. So their button. Okay, my God. So let's look at their canvas. That's what we really want to see. Their canvas has a vertical layout group, middle center, control child size width. So we're doing some things sort of the same, but not all of them. They've got their canvas has control child size width. They've also got a graphic raycaster. Oh, we have one too. It just came with the thing. Do they have a content size fitter? How do you guys do this? Bam, 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 bam. They do not. So let's remove ours. Let's just try to steal exactly what they did. So our content size fitter, we're removing. I think this is something that gets us closer to what we want, but is like a local maximum where it's not actually going to be the thing that we want. When we look at the text, I can see that the text has a horizontal layout group on it. Really? All right, we can do that. That's surprising to me. Add component. On the text? The text doesn't have any children, though. No? Horizontal layout group. And they checked some things. They check width, height, width, height. Bam, bam. Okay. And then they also have a content size fitter again on their text. Right? I'm looking at the right one? Yeah. Sample scene, and this is our basic demo. Okay, yeah, we'll keep stealing their stuff. On the text, interesting. Content size fitter, and they are doing unconstrained and vertical fit as a preferred size. Okay. And then is the button the same thing? Please, go be minimized. We got to clean up our code too. That'll be a good thing to do, either early this afternoon or sometime this morning. Button, just so that we don't get, because especially the way we're writing this right now, I think there's going to be a lot of stuff all in one file, and so we gotta get organized. Okay. They also have on their button, they have a content size fitter. Can I minimize all? Unclose all these tabs? No? Okay. We're going to add layout, horizontal layout group. Their horizontal layout group has width, height. Great, that's the same. And then their content size fitter has horizontal and vertical fit at preferred size. So we're going to just steal all of that. And if it all just works, that would be awesome. And we won't touch it again for the rest of today. Probably. Because if we go back to rule number 1, if it looks bad, that's fine. That's the key. You sit down to prepare another meal. Try to remember the recipe. Okay, we need a little bit of padding on this text, but this kind of works. You cast your mind back to a simpler time. A conventional but adequate sandwich appears before you, sitting cross-legged. This works. We need padding for these things, but the stealing was a good idea. Okay. Stealing was the best idea that we've had so far on the stream. Do they have, if I look at their actual, like, are they defining padding somewhere? Actually, let's look at their example real quick, too. Do their buttons look like our buttons do? No, they have a little bit of padding. I mean, it's not much, but it is better than what we have. So when we look at their Buton, how do I want this to be the inspector. Oh, they went to the ink player. Okay. When I look at this, can I raycast padding? No. Button, horizontal layout group. Bam, has padding. That's where you put it. Okay, cool. We got it. We're in the money. We've got this. Okay, so our horizontal layout group. I have no idea how the horizontal layout group is supposed to work still. That is something that I would say we have not learned. Let's just put 10 in all of these. I think that's something that we don't need to learn for this project. I think if we can find these values that kind of work, that will be sufficient. Okay, so we've got a little bit of padding on everything. Let's see what it looks like. I can't believe there's a giant cake in Psychonauts. Bam! You sit down to prepare another meal. Try to remember the recipe. Bam! These need a little space between these things. Can I do that in the canvas, in our vertical layout group? Put a little padding on top and bottom. Put like a 10. 10 and a 10. I actually don't know if this will be passed down. I have no idea how these layout groups will interact. But that seems like the right thing to do. Let's find out. Bam. Nope. That was not the one. Padding is no. Spacing, surely. What if we put spacing to 100? We double this value just to see what it does. 100 is probably not the right value, but just to see what happens, we make a huge change to it. Okay. That kind of works. I wish that this had like a margin. Can I do that on our text? This is the last thing that we need, and then we'll stop messing with the UI. Is if we can make a little bit of, not padding, but like margin on this bad boy. Kind of size filter, horizontal layout group, spacing, 10. I want to see if we can prevent this from filling up the whole, or from touching the edges of the screen. Is there like a maximum width we can put down? I bet there is. That sounds real. Let's do content size filter. Horizontal fit, preferred size? No. Horizontal fit, minimum size. And then we go to our rectangle transform. And is there a minimum size? This might not be a good idea. Let's see what that did. I think that's going to break it. Yeah. Yeah, I see what that means now. Now I understand that minimum size will cause all of our text to be vertical. Good. Okay, unconstrained. How can we make this not touch the edges? Text, maybe? Text, blah, 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 blah. Best fit. Best fit? And we can put in a max size? Yeah! No. Why is the text so much bigger now? Because I did best fit, I'm sure. Oh, it's the minimum and maximum size of the text. Okay. Got it. I just want a little bit, I just want this to have a maximum bigness that it can be. So let's read, maybe Unity, layout group, maximum width. Limit max width of layout component. Bam. After you made it baffled, max value doesn't exist. Preferred seems to sort of work that way, but then again, not really. There are no max values. You have to create your own custom version for that. Preferred width height property works max property if you have flexible width height set to 0. If your element is inside, make sure to disable force child expander as well. When using preferred height. Okay, other people also don't know how to do this in the year 2015 at least. I'm running the same issue. I found a way that works for me. See if you can adapt it to your needs. This person is just putting little empty images on the sides, which is kind of funny. People arguing about how the GIF is rendering. Should have max value. I have a possible solution. You can't find UI layout element max size. Let's see what this solution is. Okay. Bam, 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 bam. That's an old question. I was looking for something like this. Bam, bam, bam. I end up rewriting your class. Now it works fine for me. Instead of making another mono behavior, I override the layout element. Let's not do that. Okay. Let's file this under... I can't believe that doesn't work. That's kind of surprising, actually. Can we... Okay, let's read about the horizontal layout group real quick and see if we can learn something from this documentation. Horizontal layout group. Bam. Please. Let's go to layout group. Maybe it has to be one word. No. Unity engine, come on. Unity, UI elements, classes, layout, H. Come on. A lot of Googling on this stream. Horizontal layout group. Unity UI 1.0.0. Oh, this has its own documentation. Okay. The spacing between the layout elements. I want a margin, though. With the fourth child elements to expand. But there's no content size fitter. Preferred size based on the preferred height of the layout element. The layout controller controls the size of its own layout element. The size determined by the minimum of preferred sizes. Blah, 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 blah. Text components, layout groups. It's worth keeping in mind. So what if we did it like this? What if we made our story text? Can we have... Oh, no, we can only do minimum and preferred. We can't set maximum, right? Use child scale. What if we don't let you control the child size of our story text? And then I make it wider or smaller, depending on my insane whims. Doesn't seem to have done it. All right, we're going to leave it alone. We can come back to this. This is functional. It's, if not good looking. Much like myself. So we will put a pin in that for now. I don't want to spend all our time on this. Cool. It works. We can see it. Remember that if it looks bad, that's fine. Let's close this out for now. Okay. So if we go to our to-do list, what's the next thing we wanted to do? So we've made the buttons, show all the text. Yes, that's done, technically. Let's put a polish section. And these are things that we'll polish up if we can. Margin around UI elements is going in. Can I change the size of this canvas? Is that crazy? It would seem that it is. It would seem it doesn't want me to do that. Canvas scalar. Yeah, you're not supposed to do that. Some values driven by canvas. Canvas. Can we... Okay, let's do one more search real quick. We're going to say Unity canvas size. Building responsive UI, blah, 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 blah. Change canvas to size in Unity 3D. Go to the game window. At the top of the window, there'll be a screen size menu. Let's say, can I resize a canvas? Rectangle, people say that you can't, almost surely. Add the canvas, see in the video how the person's canvas, that's how it is when you add a canvas as mentioned above. Changing the panel is pretty simple. Like in the video, you just drag the corner to resize using the tool. What? What? Let's look at this quick video. Holy smokes. How he gets canvas. There it is. Is it because it's filling up the whole screen? We don't see it? If I were to zoom out. Well, this is... Can I go less than 1 times scale? I can only zoom in. Bit of a pain. Oh, here it is. Okay. Canvas. Oh. So what if I... Is this the canvas? This doesn't seem like a good idea. Let's... Unity, canvas, margin. One last check. How to change the margin padding and border size of GUI layout buttons. Bam, new GUI style. This is the old stuff though, right? This is 2011. Yeah. Stop this. Cease this. I don't want this to be full screen. GUI style margin. That's all old stuff, I think. How to make canvas UI responsive for all screens. Blah, 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 blah. That's at the anchors of rect. They won't be correct. Out of place in Unity 3D using Flexbox. Okay, forget it. We're done. We'll come back to this later. For real. So what's next? Given that we give up on this for the moment. Okay, tighter collisions. That seems like something we can do pretty easily. So we'll write Unity, collision box, collider, sprite. Nope. Custom physics shape, collider that can perfectly fit the shape, collider to match sprite shape. I just want it to match the collider's size. Sprite size. Changing box collider to match sprite bounds at runtime. Great, perfect. But I know a workaround. Get component. Box collider.size equals s. Oh, I have no problem with that. That works for me. Yeah, that seems fine. So they're going to take this, literally just take the size of the sprite and set it to the size of this collider box. And I am down with that. Let's do it. So you're going to say, I've added the sprite renderer first, presumably. So let's actually swap these. And our box collider.size is going to equal, instead of this 1 by 1 that we set it to before, we're going to set it to player texture dot. Is this going to work? They do it to the sprite renderer or the sprite renderer? Okay. So they're going to go, actually, so player sprite dot bounds.size. Bounds.size. And I think that will maybe do it. And this will just be similarly sandwich sprite dot bounds dot size. So a lot of the work that we're going to do cleaning up this code is going to be trying to make these things generic, trying to make it so instead of hard coding, here's the sandwich, here's the player, here's all our code for every single one of them, having functions that will just spin them up for us. Compiler errors. Good. Game object could be found. No bounds. Is the capitalization wrong? Sprite.bounds. No. Okay, so let's look at our Unity documentation. This is kind of old, so it may have changed. Scripting API, show me sprite renderer. Bam, sprite renderer renders a sprite, of course. You have a property to get the size to render when the sprite render draw mode is set to sliced. No, we want the sprite. So we actually, if we have the sprite already, we can access this in a different way, right? Does this have a size? Properties, seems like no. But why? Perhaps because it has this... What do we set the size on? We didn't. Got it. Probably player sprite though, right? So let's do it like this. We can go player sprite.size just directly, right? We don't need this bounds. There was something about it having to be in a particular mode. We will read about that if this does not do what we think that it is supposed to do. Gimbal does not contain a definition for size. That is fair. We want the sprite renderer. Get component. Sprite renderer. Oh, in fact, we have that already. So we can go... We put this collider stuff second. And we'll say the size is going to be sandwich sr dot size. And then similarly here, we'll go player sprite, player sr. Okay. Dot sprite. Bam. Let us see. You don't like, cannot implicitly convert type Unity engine dot sprite to Unity. That is because this is supposed to be size. Text does not contain a definition for choice button and no accessible extension. Where have I messed this up? Line 113? Choice button dot on click. Oh, right. I started to add a line here and then I deleted it. I didn't finish it. Okay. Come on. Let's see if this bounding boxes are better. Bam. That's a little better. Yes. All right. This is sort of functional. The problem is he doesn't like... he's not like a box. And so if we... What if we add it so you have to be close and press the space bar to collide? So you don't just collide, you have to also be holding down space. And then it's like, okay, that goes to the menu. I think that's a better... So like space will be like our interact button. So we'll say collision detected. We'll say if input dot get key. So if somebody is pressing down space when we detect this collision. Nope, that's not going to work. Nope. Because that's... You'll have to be pressing down space as you walk into him. Maybe we'll just... Is a last second fix, we can... Well, it's definitely better if you press a button when you're close to these people, right? So we will say if there's a collision detected... What's our other script is on this trigger? If we go to collide child, on trigger enter 2D, is there like an on trigger? Let's see what our other choices are for detecting a collision. On trigger enter 2D. but I want to see the collider 2D. Untrigger, exit, untrigger, stay. Send each frame where another object is within a trigger collider attached to this object. This is what we want. So we'll actually send this on trigger stay 2D. So if you are colliding, and we'll say if current not does not equal null, or equals null. So if we're not in a story mode right now, and we're pressing down the space bar, so we're going to say input dot get key. I assume that I can just write the word space, and hopefully that will work. Sorry. So if you've got all this stuff, so this should be a bracket. Okay, so our new logic is every time we are overlapping, this on-trigger stay 2D is going to keep firing. Most of the time, it's going to exit really fast because it's going to look and see if current not is not null. Or input.key space. So these things we're hoping are quick to check. If they're not, if this is somehow making our game chug-a-lug, this is potentially a place to try to optimize. But we'll say every time these things are colliding, we check if we're not in adventure mode and you're holding down the space bar, then put us into the adventure mode. By adventure mode, I mean the story mode. Whatever it is, the thing with the buttons. Whatever we want to call it. Let's see. Our controls for this game are a little funky. We're going to be moving with WASD and pressing space, and then also like clicking options with the controls are just very different from mode to mode. Okay, so we can go all over the place. If I press spacebar over here, nothing happens. But if I go up to this guy and press spacebar, there we go. If I have to get really close to him, you sit down to prepare another meal. So actually, if that's the case, then we probably do want this person's hitbox to be, if we just want to be close to him, we probably do want it to be outside of his self a little bit. So we don't have to be like all up in his grill. Maybe not. Maybe it's fine. That's something we can do for polish. I think that kind of works. So we move around. Here's our man. Let's just make him faster because this feels bad to me. Okay, so let's actually put that in polish. Okay, that all works. So in polish, we add 2 more items. First item of polish to do. So margin around UI elements. Yes, we want that for polish. Movement. We'll say dial in movement speed. So we'll try to just make the movement speed feel better. And we'll say dial in hitboxes. So these are things that we can, right now they kind of work. We can make them try to feel better than they do right now. Cool. Maximum 2 dimensions, good. No sound. It's not just a visual novel. True. Have fun. Good. No shoes on the couch. Just checking that we're still following all the rules. Looks like we're good. Cool. So that's our tighter collisions. We got it. Now we want scenes that slide. This is the part that I'm sort of most interested in. We might want to do a quick round of code cleanup first before we get into this. Let's see what we've got. Let's see what we got to work with. Okay, this is still silly, the way that we set up this collide thing, but that's what we get for following the advice of a random person on the internet in the Unity forums. This is making me excited for like the next, if we do another game jam later and we don't have to figure as much of this stuff out on the fly. So the player, let's leave all this stuff here. Let's try to make a function that's just going to put in a new character in the story. Okay, so we're going to try to, so this player stuff, we're going to, actually, no, I tell a lie. We're going to make something that will just make a character, and then we will also put some extra stuff on the player sprite afterward. So here comes our new function. Void. We'll say add character to scene. And, oh, they do everything uppercase. I don't know what the style convention is. Okay, so add character to scene. And this is going to take a game object, which we will call Geo because I'm lazy. It should also take, what other things do we need? Here are the texture name. So that's just going to be a string. We'll say texture name. And you also need a local scale will be the same every time. That's fine. Gravity scale, that stuff is going to be all the same every time. Those potentially are the only things that we need. We could also do a translate that we could take in here. But actually, I like this the way it is. So let's start. This is just going to add a character to the scene with a lot of the setup stuff that we have to do every time. And so it'll just drop them right in the middle of the screen. And if we want to move them to a different place, we'll do that in separate logic afterwards. So the first thing that we need to do, let's just actually literally transform set parent this transform. That's fine. So we don't need this rigid body until later. So what can we take here? So we want the player sprite dot add component sprite renderer. This, yeah, let's do this, and we'll take stuff out again as we need it. So player sprite, everywhere we wrote player sprite here, we got to change it. My option key is broken, so we'll say player sprite. Everywhere we're writing that, we're going to change that from player sprite to go. Bam, 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 bam. This also, we need everywhere that we wrote, we should have cut out some other stuff too. Ah, shoot. That's fine, because it's rigid body stuff. Actually, let's undo some of that. Shoot. In fact, let's undo. Dang it. Because we said we were going to do all this movement stuff afterwards. Actually, let's do this like this. Let's say, let's also make this take a vector 3, which is going to be translate. We're going to call this translate vector. And this is going to move. So we'll also put them in the correct place on the screen in this function. Cool. So the parts that we need to take out are these rigid body parts. So player sprite dot transform dot set parent. Why does it need to be a child of this again? I forget, but it's fine. Add component rigid body. This other one doesn't need to be, right? Why indeed? Let's not worry about that for the moment. Maybe let's put a little note that maybe we don't need this. What is this doing? Good. This is the sign that we need to clean up our code. When we wrote it yesterday and we have lines where we don't know what they do, that's a pretty bad sign. Okay, so our player sprite, we add component, rigid body 2D. We turn off the gravity, so we'll say spawn player, add gravity. Add hitbox stuff is here. Everything else, add component collide child is here too. So this is what's going to tell us to yell up to our... Oh, that's why it needs to be the parent. Yeah, got it. So that it needs to be the parent so that when we do this collide child thing, so it knows where to pass the collision event up to. This probably is not the right way to do this. We've said this before. That's fine. We can come back to that as needed. So instead what we want to do, what else can we chop out of here? Everything else here is the right thing. The box collider we need. The is trigger thing we need. The sprite we need. Okay, so let's do some more text replace. Literally just changing player to go. So we'll say the go SR, go texture. That will be texture name, so just skip that one for now. Bam, 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 bam. Okay. That didn't quite work. That's fine. This is going to make it, I think this is just going to make it easier to set up. And as we try to do the like scenes, this is going to be invaluable for us to like go through and spawn everybody in who we need in a particular scene. So we'll say go sprite. This is all add collision. Let's just add some little comments here so we don't forget what this is all doing. We'll say scale into place. Let's add a constant. No, it's fine. We'll just put it here. This should be transform. We translate by this translate vector. Local scale is fine. Equals go texture. This needs to be texture name. So we're just doing a little refactor here. So we'll say sprite add texture, scale in place, add collision. Those are the things that we want all of these to do. And this can be void. It doesn't need to return like a game object, or does it? You know what? It should just return a game object, right? Yeah, so we won't pass a game object in. We'll create one here. It's actually going to return a game object. I think that'll actually make the code a little cleaner. And we'll say our geo equals new game object. And we can pass in our game object name. We'll call this string name. Do we need the name? Maybe not. That's fine. New game object name. So we make our... Okay, we'll say create game object, add the texture, scale in place, add collision, bam. So now when we create our player sprite, we'll say player sprite equals, and instead of saying new game object, this needs to return our game object at the end, crucially with the semicolon. So our player sprite is now we're just going to call to our function to do a lot of this setup. So we'll say add character to scene. His name is player. So if all of this works, our game will be exactly the same. This will seem to not change anything from the outside if we haven't messed it all up. What is the name of the player sprite? Is it just player sprite? We can check here. Project, assets, resources. It's just player. Okay. One thing that we'll need to think about is if we're adding information or adding animation, that'll change what we're doing here now, but that's fine. We'll go player. In fact, let's use the string. Should we just always use the same? No, we shouldn't use the same name because... No, that's fine. We're going to do that. We're going to say the texture name and the name are going to be the same for now. And if we add animation, then this name will become like a prefix for the textures. And we'll put like 0, 1, 2, 3, whatever. You know, it'll be like player 0, player 1, player 2, if needed. And then we need our translate vector. So here we've got vector 3 dot down or dot up times 2.0. So we're passing in this so this function is going to create the character, add them to the scene, and give them back to us. So we can set, for instance, our player sprite to that character. Then we do this extra thing to add hitbox stuff. That's fine. We can have this hard-coded there for now. We should only have to do it once. Let's say our sandwich, then we can remove a lot of this code because so much of it is the same, right? So we should be able to say sandwich sprite equals add character to scene. It's going to be our sandwich. And we're also going to put in this position. I wish we could. I'm much more used to thinking about positions in games in terms of like a grid where the origin is at the bottom left-hand corner. But I guess here we're removing everybody from the middle, which is fine. I just have to adjust my own thinking a little bit. So add character scene sandwich, and we've got our position for it. So I think I think we can delete literally all of this code, except for we have to add the tag manually. But I think this is our setup now. So all that code that we had before, now we just made it a little bit nicer. Let's see if it actually works. That would be the crucial thing. The name vector does not exist in its current context. It's fair. Did I call something a vector that needs to be a vector 3? Yes, I did. The name go does not exist in the current context. Yeah, we need to declare this now. It's going to be our game object go. Yeah. What else? The name go sprite does not exist in the current context. Okay, so we got a lot of these variables that need to be declared now. That's fine. So our go texture. Oh, they don't like go sprite. That should be scale in place. Uh-oh. This should be... I can fix this. We change this to go sprite. We change this to go sprite. That sprite equals go texture. So we're again using different naming convention than they are. It's hopefully fine. Oh, but the go sprite.get component box collider go sr.size. Let's see if that works. Potentially we've gotten this a little confused. Sprite render does not contain a definition for add component. Right. Oh, I got it. So this does need to be GoSR. And this needs to be GoSR. But these places where we have Go Sprite, I think this just needs to be Go. Right? Because we've called our game object Go now. Go.addComponent, Go.transform, Go.addComponent. I think that'll do it. GoSR does not exist. Right, that's because we changed this name. We can call this GoSR for sprite renderer. All right, let's see if that works. Bam. That part doesn't work. Or maybe they're not considered to be colliding. They weren't colliding enough. Why? That actually surprises me. This not considered to be colliding? No, that works. Okay, I don't know. I don't get it. That's fine. Our little refactor is complete. Okay, because now what we want is we have our one scene right now. And so the thing that we want is we want to be able to tell our game that there are multiple scenes. And so the first thing that we're going to do is pretend that there's only one, but we're going to write a function that builds it, where we're able to tell it, okay, I want this kind of character to be here, and this kind of character to be in this position, and then I want you to set up the whole background for me. So it'll basically be taking out this stuff from start. And so we'll do it like this. We'll say void, create scene. How do we want to represent these scenes? I guess that you represent them as a list of characters. So is a scene just, right now a scene is only characters, or only these little sprites. That's the only thing that it could be. Add character to scene, sandwich. So I guess we need a bunch of pairs of this name, and do we need to write a new class for this? We kind of do. How can I do this in a non-stupid way? Do they do that here? They don't write their own classes for... Let's look at Unity, C#, create new class. Where do they suggest that we put that? How to create new objects of class? No. A custom class in Unity, C#. Great. There's two ways of doing it. Change your class so it inherits from mono behavior. You won't be able to have a constructor for your class anymore, but you will be able to attach directly. Or write a separate mono behavior derived class, which creates an instance of your... Oh my god. Those both seem horrible. You can't do that. Mono behaviors must be attached to game objects. Class called vehicle, blah, blah, blah. This is kind of what we want to do. So what is the exact problem? I just want to slap some sprite onto that instance and move it around the screen. Anything works. How do I do that? We just want a little container for some information, because we just want to tell everything about the scene to our like scene setter upper. And we want to just like pack together this information of the name and the position and potentially a tag, if one is necessary. Can tag be... I guess tag is null by default. So we can say, okay, I got it. Thanks so much for the help, blah, blah, blah. As a game object. That's not quite what we want to do. Classes you need to learn. Okay, fine. We're looking at there. Ooh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this weird tutorial. Okay. Single character script, fine. Inventory. Oh, maybe we do want this. What am I looking at? So do they... Private inventory. I guess that's the way to do it. I guess just make all of these take from mono behavior, but then they don't have a constructor, which is a little weird. Inventory equals get component inventory. But then my stuff.bullets minus. It's a little awkward to set up. I wish we could just do it with a constructor. I guess we can write a function that acts like a constructor. It's weird, but I suppose that it would work. Get component inventory. Let's try it. That seems really weird, but I don't see why it wouldn't technically work. Let's see. Input, blah, 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 blah. New stuff. Right. Is there stuff here? Oh, whoa. They got a constructor. How'd you guys do that? Public stuff, my stuff equals new stuff. Yeah. But how do you do this? Of the stuff class. That's what I want. Public stuff. Oh my god. So they've put stuff inside this class. They've declared a class inside their class. Oh. Let's do that. That seems fine. So inside, I mean, it'll be a little weird, but it'll be fine. So inside here, we'll add our class. Public class scene. So public class, we're going to call this a character. A character is going to be a game object that we can add to the scene. And so our add character to scene isn't going to take these two pieces of information anymore. It's going to start taking just a character. And so we're going to mess with that a little bit. But I can just declare this just inline. That's totally fine. I'll take it. So it'll have a public int. It needs a name. Public int. It's also going to need a translate, which is going to tell us where to put it. Translate vector, we can call it. It's not an int. That is a vector 3. And let's give it a public string that we'll call tag. And so you can make a character. This is just going to be a little container class for these pieces of information. So what do they say? Public. Just write our little constructor. It's going to take int name. You know what we're doing. Int name in, I guess. Translate vector. And so actually what we could do is, maybe that's crazy. We can make this a method of this character class to add it to the scene. Maybe that's weird. Let's see what that would look like. This shouldn't be an integer. I don't know why I had this. Your name is a string. So we go string. These are the in and a string tag in. Okay? So we've got our little constructor here, and we're going to say, let's actually try that. That might be an interesting way to write this. Then you write some really boring code where we say name equals name in. Translate vector equals translate vector in. And tag equals tag in. Cool. And so then and actually, let's not have the translate vector. Let's make that when we add it to the scene. Oh, this is a mistake. No, I want my scene to call a bunch of these guys. Yeah, I'm wrong. We'll have the translate vector. So when you create a character, we say what's their name, where, like what texture, what do they look like, where should they be, what, if any, tag should they kick off, what if any like dialogue tree should they kick off. So our create scene, let's not worry about creating that yet. But what I like to do is to say, we'll add this public method, public void add to scene. So why am I doing it like this? Because what I want to do ultimately is to make a big list of these characters that define the scene, and then have a function that sets up the scene by just rolling through them and calling this function add to scene on each of them. Maybe this is overkill now that we're actually starting to see it, but we'll see. And this should be capitalized because that's the preferred style. Okay. So our add character to scene is now going to, it has to return them too, right? That's fine. Right. So we'll say game object, public game object. You know what the trouble is? So we make our scene, right? And we add all our characters. So let's actually do it like this. Check it out. Public void. So the problem is I want to be able to add this character to the scene. So I want to be able to define a scene as a list of characters and have a function which is just going to say for every character that we've defined in the scene, add it to the scene, or add it, put it into the game. The problem is I then want to do more things to those characters afterwards that we can't do until they've been rendered. So things like adding this hitbox stuff or is really the specific example that I have in mind. So if I want to do something funky to the character afterwards and get that game object out, I don't really know how to do that. But maybe that's fine. Maybe the game object isn't something that we need to access except in the case of the player. And so, because the player isn't part of the scene. The player, so like when we're setting up a new scene, the scene is defined as maybe a background and a list of characters, and we drop them all into, we render them all, and then we render the player last in a separate step. And so that way we'll have access to that like they'll be separate. We won't be like doing things to the particular characters. This is a little funky the way that we're doing it. We could have written, if we're going to write the code this way, because then like later what we could do is we can add like an update method to these characters. And so when the scene updates, every time we're like calculating a new frame, we can also run through all the update methods of the characters. The problem is if we're doing that, then why are we writing all of this in one file? Why not just write character as a mono behavior? Maybe we should do that. Is that what we got to do? Write it as a mono behavior and attach it to the class? And attach it to a game object, rather? Let's see what we've got here. We might do another big refactor later, but let's keep going here. For now, let's say at our current scope, a scene is we drop the characters down and we don't do anything to them. They don't move around. They don't do anything else. We can go up and talk to them or interact with them or anything, but in our V0, all we're doing is doing a little scavenger hunt. We're walking from place to place and seeing what we can see. And if there are... Yeah, that's fine. And so characters basically won't update with every frame of the scene. The only character who'll be updating and moving around will be our player sprite, which is like a special case. So we'll do that. I think that will work. And so what we can do then is we can say, instead of returning go, we could have this could be void, and we could have like a private, actually all of these things could be private, because I don't want somebody, well, no, well, let's make them private and we'll make them public as we need them. I think that's probably a good policy. We could just make everything public and say, that's fine, we'll just grab. That way everything will be available as soon as we need it. But let's be a little more conservative. I'll say private game object go, right? And so instead of having this game object go, we say go equals new game object, and then we do all these things to go, and we don't return it at the end. I think this actually will sort of work. But then our player sprite, we do need the game object. So we'll do, does need to be public. Check it out. So now when we write this, instead of doing this add character to scene method that we call here, the first thing we do is we define our characters. So in start, we say our player sprite, say player character, and we can call this a character. Hopefully character doesn't mean like a letter or a number or a symbol when it's capitalized in C#, but we'll find out. Character player character equals new character, and we got to pass in the stuff that we need about them. So that's going to be, we need to set the tag if there is one when we add them to the scene. And we'll say null because this character has no tag. And then we'll add a last thing here on add to scene. We'll say add tag if tag what is it? If, how can I check if this is null? We'll say if tag doesn't equal null. That's probably an easy way to check, but might not be a robust one. That's fine for now. We can fix this if it gives us problems. If the tag doesn't equal null, then go dot tag equals tag. Okay, so if there's a tag, we add it to our game object at the end. So we spawn the player. We add this new character. We say player character dot add to scene. It could return. It could also just return go. We could say public, and maybe most of the time when you call it. Actually, yes, we're not gonna have this. We are gonna have it return a game object because then these characters are more like templates. And so if we wanted, for instance, to drop a whole bunch of one character in, we could do it. And so actually, let's add to scene. Let's have this take the translate vector. Is this silly? So your character is a name and a tag. When you add them to the scene, you pass in this translate vector, and that tells us where to put them. And so that way, if we want to stamp a bunch of the same character around all over the place, we have the option to do that. Why is this bad? This is bad because I said I wanted my scenes to be defined by a list of characters and their locations, and so that doesn't work. Okay, never mind. Let's put that back the way it was before. Okay, sorry. So we're back to a character is a name, a vector, and a tag. When we create our... Okay, so we create a game object. Bam, 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 bam. But it... And so then actually, if we did want a bunch of the same character, we would just write a bunch of them. We wouldn't keep calling add to scene on the same character. And so for that reason, we should do... private. Oh, we'll need this to be public. No. Yes. Private, public, brah. Game object. Go. And so we say go equals this. This won't return the thing. So this will be void. Okay. And so now to use this, we'll say player character is our character here. We say player character dot add to scene. Our this is not gonna be clear yet why it's useful. I think it'll become useful in a second though that we have this like organization. Player sprite. So player character dot add to scene. Add. We just call it add to scene, right? Awesome. But then we need that player sprite, and so we can go. Can we change everywhere we say player sprite to player go? And sandwich sprite to sandwich go? Let's do that. So go player sprite. I just want to call that player go. For game object. Please. Since it's not actually a sprite is a different thing. Cool, and then we'll do the same thing for the sandwich sprite. Bam. Bam. Cool. So our player go, then we say player go equals, we'll go game object. Player go equals player character dot go. This needs a semicolon. Then we had the hitbox stuff to player go. So we've added it to the scene. We've cracked out the player object, and then our sandwich I think we can now write in one line, because we just go. No, we need two lines. I'm wrong. So character. Well, actually, no. We could just do it like this. New. Hello. I'm in car. Sorry if I cut out. Hey, no worries. We're doing some coding stuff this morning. So we're just cleaning up the code that we have a little bit. Sorry for all the DMs, lol. Oh, I haven't seen them. I haven't checked on Discord yet. Let me check those in just a second. Let me finish up the current like code cleanup that we're doing, and then I'll look after that. So add character to scene. So we should be able to say new character. Can we do this in one line? Sandwich. vector down, and then we write this as PB and J is the name of our tag. And remembering that tags are something that we have to like enumerate. A lot, lol? Okay, also still in audio mode. No worries. This might not be very interesting to listen to then. It's going to be a lot of me talking to myself about the code here. So then dot add to scene. So if this all worked, can I do that in one line? Can I chain something to, can I create a new character and then chain a function called, a method call to it right away? That seems illegal, but let's find out. IDK when I'm watching with code anyway, so don't worry. Okay, fair enough. I think what we're doing right now is interesting. This is the part that is interesting to me. So basically, in terms of the code, we made it so we can, woof. Object reference not set to an instance of an object. TopScript.move player. Indeed. Oh, you know what we got to do? We got to say not GameObjectPlayerGo equals playerCharacter.go. We've got to make our global player go here be called player go. So the idea is we are trying to, like right now we can hard code in like one kind of character at a time that we want to put in, and we say we can put in this character and then put in this character. But the thing that we're trying to do now is to be able to define a scene as a list of characters that we want to drop in. So like when we're looking at a particular screen, we can say, okay, this screen is going to have these 3 characters. They're going to be in these 3 positions. And so that when you go, you know, then we can have a function which is going to say, load that scene based on those descriptions. And it's going to put all the characters in for us. And that way we'll be able to define multiple scenes and come back to the same place over and over. I think it'll be a little bit easier for us to stay organized. Did we decide on the concept? And by the way, the cake is ready? Oh, you love to hear that. The cake is ready. I was thinking of making an apple hog, like a wild boar, but an apple boar. Oh, so the concept, I would say no. We still have not decided on. Thinking about it though, I'm less married than I was yesterday to this idea of having the conversation with a recipe. I think that it can be cool. We had a lot of trouble trying to write one yesterday, though. And so I think doing something more straightforward, where like our conversation trees are with people or something, might make more sense. Or if they're not, then maybe like the recipes are doing something that's more obvious, like your conversation with the recipe just tells you what ingredients you'll need. Right, so I talk to the recipe, and it gives me some clues about what needs to go in, rather than like talking to the conversation puts together the recipe. It's an interesting idea. I don't know if we can make it work in the time that we have here. Talk to boar or hunt. If we go feed Cake King, we can chase the boar to him to eat. Oh man. Well, that's the other thing is right now, Rango, we're trying to set it up so that like the kind of MVP skeleton of this game is going to be, we move from scene to scene. Each of these scenes has fixed objects in it. You can go up to an object and interact with it in like a text tree. So basically, if you could imagine Legend of Zelda 1, right? But you wander from scene to scene, and the only thing that you can do is talk to people. You go up to somebody and you press space, and it brings up a little dialogue tree. I think that's the engine that we have right now. Once we have that in place, then I want to revisit the concept a little bit. Okay, this worked though, right? This worked in Unity. Did we just do this? So just different scenes. I think so. Yeah, so different scenes with like static characters right now. And then once we get that working, then we can try to put in things like the characters move around, the characters do different things. So like a thing that we could probably write right now would be like a Zelda, like a trading quest. Oh, okay, what about convincing the apple boar to go? Or we like plant a trap for it? Yeah, we could do something like that, definitely. And like I say, a dialogue tree doesn't have to be like a conversation. It could be like, you approach the apple boar. Do you want to do this? So it's going to be, we're getting closer to just being like a text adventure. or something like that, I think is going to be the way to make this project actually get done in time. Let me look at Discord now. We've got that sort of working. Let me see what we've got here. Let me see what I'm working with. Open Discord. I've pulled you up, but you're off screen, Rango, so don't worry. We're not doxing you. Let's see. Okay. So we've got our chef. We've got a big piece of cheese. We've got a lollipop. Let me see this question. Boom, animation. Yes, we can do a little. I think we could do a chase by using ink to make more conceptualized situations like that. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Is you can have like I want to go over here. I want to, chase the boar. The boar runs into the brushes. Do you go into the brushes after it, sit very quietly and see if it emerges. Having choices like that. We can add some animation to your little chef character. I think that's doable. King Cake is amazing. I'm a big fan. I don't care what you feed me as rent. You think of something. You'll think of something. Perfect. Let me pull this up to show on stream because I actually really love King Cake. I remember you said you can make non-text stuff, which is more like interactions. Yeah, we can. That would be the ideal. I think the question is going to be if we can pull it off in time. I decided on Tiny King Cake. I like him a lot. How can I show this well on stream with not a white background? Because in Safari it shows it with a white background, but I think we want to see the real deal. How can I? He's very small. If I do this, let me see. What's going to be a good way to show this? Okay, here's my idea. I'm going to open up this website that's like fake Photoshop. And we're going to open up your image in it. So I'm going to go copy that image address. And that way we'll be able to see it with a proper background. Load URL. Load it. Bam. Okay, so here's King Cake. He is small and amazing. There he is. He's got some kind of a scepter. He is a little cake. I love it. I don't mind you showing anything I sent that time. It's all right. I just don't want to. We can be careful. It's not that much extra work to just keep that stuff off screen. Here he is. He's beautiful, as we can see. He's a cake. He's got his little scepter. I think this is a character that we can put in. And particles are a good finisher. I think this is actually a good call out. Is putting some kind of like effect or layer on top to make it look fancy is potentially gonna give us a lot of bang for our buck in terms of the amount of time it takes and the amount of polish that it seems to add. So actually, let me add that to my list. So we're keeping a list of things that we can do just to polish the game. So we can fix the margin around UI elements so that they look good. Dial in the movement speed to make it feel better to move around. Dial in the hitboxes, not the hot boxes, so that things feel like better. It's clearer what distance I have to be to interact with something, or that feels better. And then as another line of polish, we'll put in filters or particles, something to just make it look more good. We'll say look more good. And we'll add that to our list of polish. Cool. Let's go back into some code for the moment. So we've done our little refactor so far. All of our code now does the same thing as before. It's just organized a little bit differently. And so indeed, we can add our sandwich to the scene now with a single line of code. And that's kind of cool. And will be good if we want to add, for instance, lots of sandwiches. So we also need... Let's have a scene. Let's write a scene class too. Scene. And a scene will be a... What should we call it? Let's not call it a scene. Let's call it... Because I think scene is a thing in Unity. As well as nice visuals. Getting information in UI nicely across to players. Yeah, that's a big deal. So we've got all the buttons. Yesterday when we were doing it, the buttons and text prompts were all over the place in kind of a crazy way. we've got them so that they, like, you can read all the text, you can see all the buttons, but it looks kind of bad and janky. And so cleaning that up a little bit is definitely something we want to do for polish if there's time. So let's add another class. This is going to be not a scene, but a what do we call this? Not a scene, but a public class. A screen? We'll call it a screen, for lack of a better thing to name it. We can come back to that if needed. Let me just do something real quick. Yeah, and so our screen is going to be a list of characters and then also a background. And that's all we need to know for now. Oh, and then also we'll add later how these tiles link together. I wanted to make tiles, but I wanted to ask if there's any details I need to know. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to think of. So I think my idea is that we'll just like have a background that'll be like one big tile that we put in the back, and then we can put characters over it. And so a character could be like you know, somebody that you talk to, but a character could also be a boulder. Characters in our language is just going to mean a thing in the world, some kind of an object. And so basically, if you could imagine, like, our background will be one big background, and then our characters will be little stickers that we put on top of it. The question is, how do we do this? How big does that background need to be? Let's figure that out. I think I can make different basic tiles. Yeah, that would be perfect. Let me find out how big they need to be. And then that's something we can figure out right now. So the way that we'll do that is by making our player character very big until he fills up the whole screen. That'll be fine. So if I go to... There seems like there should be a better way, but it's fine. So if we've got them at... Everything's... We're scaling up to, I guess... So our graphics right now are 64 by 64, and we're scaling them up by 3, right? But we're going to... So tiles are... I can make different base tiles, so tiles are a no-go. I think if you make tiles, are they just going to be 36 by 36? I was thinking that we would have like one big flat image for the background and then put little things on top of it. I think it's going to be the easier ways to do this. If you want to do it as tiles, we could like stitch them together manually, basically outside the game and into like an image, you know, into a bigger image. But let me just see how big like our background image would have to be. So our background image is going to need to be... Yeah, I wish I could tell the screen size. Maybe actually I can. Can I just go view... I guess I don't know what our scene size is going to be. It could be like... Like, we could dial it in by just doing bigger and bigger things. I don't think that will look good. I was going to make a tile type that just connects to itself well. We could... Well, so we can still do it. So we can still draw it at like a, you know, at the same kind of pixels. Like, so you could draw a background that's tiled. I think that it frees us up a little bit. If instead of repeating tiles over and over, we can just draw something flat, right? Because you could do tiles within that, or you could draw something different. But the trouble is we got to get the size right. So let's say, how can I tell exactly how big this scene is? Is there any way that I could possibly do that? Let's say, let's just search Unity. Unity 2D screen size in pixels. Is that something we can do? Choosing the resolution of your 2D art assets. Yeah. Please. Does this not load? Blog.unity.com is a broken website. Please don't be a broken website. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's a broken website. Okay, no worries. Readying Unity for screen resolution, question mark? All my sprites have the following settings, blah, 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 blah. 32. Not sure how it would work, but you can scale sprites in the XY direction. My canvas settings for my component. This is my main camera settings. My sprites have the following settings. That doesn't quite tell us what we need. Best practices for 2D games. Black bars are needed to maintain the backgrounds. Aspect ratio restrict changing resolution, which forces window mode so you don't get stretching. Games like Zelda go by world size, so no need to enforce specific resolution or aspect. Camera is restricted to world bounds. Different aspects will see more or less of the screen. That's not really a problem. True, fair, as long as everything is on screen. Use camera.rectangle in a background camera to fill in the letter box. Running the camera to a render texture. Putting that texture into canvas and using... Okay. Did some research on how they handle different aspect ratios, blah, 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 blah. That's fine. 32 by 32 tiles, like all our guys. Then we just put them all across the screen. I think that's going to actually be harder to, like, write in code, right? So we could stitch together the 32 by 32 tiles outside the game and then make it a single image. Rather than trying to tile them all across the screen, I think is actually going to be the slightly easier thing to do. So if I made my scene like... Let's just try to put a background tile in and see how big it needs to be. I think that's what we're going to do. And our background tile is actually just going to be a big character that we add to the scene first. Yeah, okay. I think that's going to be... I think that's going to be the simpler thing to do here. Can I make tiles and use Stitch? Yes, that's fine. Yeah, I'm up for it. So let's try... I'll try to figure out how big the screens are supposed to be at the same time. But we'll set it to something where, yeah, we can make the tiles work. Regardless of how big it needs to be. So our screen is going to have a private character, which is going to be our background. So the background is just going to be a really big character. And we're also going to have a list of characters. Let's do, oh boy, Unity, C# list of objects. Anything special I need to know about this? Can I just make it an array? 32 by 32 size. I mean, you add enough to them to fill any size, right? Yeah, that's the idea. Yep. What I need is this list. An array is probably... yeah, a list is fine because we can add stuff to it. Yeah, so actually, how do they do this? So they say... the following code creates a list of objects. New list author. Okay, that's very easy. And then we add things to the list. Cool. So we'll say... private list character characters. I have two ideas. Lay them on me. Public screen. We'll take a background and we'll say character background in and a character, a list of characters called characters in. We're also, so we won't do it yet, but ultimately we're also going to add, each screen is going to have like a north, south, east, and west that will potentially be another screen, right? So that we'll be able to link them together like a graph that way. It might be weird. We'll probably write a function which will be like link these two north to south or east to west or whatever, that will make them be doubly linked, because I don't think we'll ever want a situation where I go, one direction and we get to one scene, but then I go right back the other way and it takes me back somewhere else. Let's not plan on doing that for the start. Although we could support that. We'll see. This could support that, actually. Try to do like a Lost Woods scenario from Zelda 1. Okay, so we build our screen. Our screen is really easy. We go background. Is got to be background equals background in. This code is not very interesting. This is just a little container class. Characters equals characters in. Cool. Let me make sure OBS is here. Brought up. Good. So we've got our little character class. It's got our background and the characters. And then when we render our scene, we'll go public void, draw scene, or draw screen, we called it, not a scene. This method is going to say, first draw our background. I think characters that are drawn later go on top of characters that are drawn earlier, although not 100% on that. So we'll go background. No, what do we need to do? To draw the screen, we need to say, and we also need to delete everything on the screen, potentially, right? Is the other thing that we'll want to do. Ooh, that's tricky, but we can do that. So void draw screen is going to be background dot. So actually, maybe the background is just another character, right? Is that weird to just always be like one character has to be? Actually, that might be less restrictive. So we say so we got to write a little for loop. For int I equals 0, I is less than characters dot size, I plus plus, characters dot size, characters dot length, characters dot count. Which one is it? We'll guess count. Let's real quick do C sharp list, and just get what's the method to get the number of items? The number of items we get from, please. Is it count? The count property, great. Capacity property displayed again, great. Sure, the capacity is increased as needed, great, cool. So for each character that's here, we're going to say character dot. So this is again not gonna seem very interesting yet, but I think it will be useful once we have multiple scenes. And we'll say public void delete scene or delete screen. Is going to be the same thing, but for the characters, we're not going to add them to the screen. Instead, we're going to delete these bad boys. And so how do they do that here? They remove children dot destroy. Wow. Game object dot destroy. And then just the name of the thing we want to destroy? Okay, cool. We can say game object dot destroy. And we just need their game object, right? So we just say character. This should be characters I. Destroy characters I dot go, which is its game object, right? And that game object is public, so that's fine. We can get that. Cool. I think that will let us draw all of the characters in a scene or delete all of the characters in a scene. If that is the case, if that's going to work, then let's do it like this. Let's say our scene, my first scene, equals list. Let's do C#. List constructor. Can I declare, do I have to add all of these things one at a time, or can I initialize a list with the constructor? Bam. Oh, that does work. Awesome. New list thing, and then great. So in theory, we should be able to go my first scene equals new scene. But it's not a scene. It's a screen. Oh boy, this is going to lead to problems. Screen, my first screen, equals new screen. And we just pass it in a list of characters, right? So we'll say also there's a new list of characters. And they are new character sandwich dot add to scene. Can I wait? Will this make it tab out right? I think this will actually work. No? This spacing is weird. New screen, new list. Sorry, put this back to that other one. So should this sort of work? And we don't call add to scene on this. We just go new character. I don't think that's right. Whatever. We'll do whatever formatting they suggest. So we create a new screen with a new list of characters. We have our one character, and then we go my first screen dot let's do draw scene. So this will draw our sandwich. So again, out of the game should be exactly the same right now as it was before when we do this, if it all worked. Let's see those compiler errors. Line 108. My first screen dot draw scene. Why don't you like this? Does not contain a definition for draw scene. That is because it's actually called draw screen. Oh boy, this is going to be a curse. I should have just called it scene. My first screen / draw screen. Metadata file exists, blah, blah, blah. Okay, here's our game again, as we've seen it so many times before. Try to remember the recipe. Where are you from? Great. Our engine kind of works. It doesn't feel very good to move around. The UI doesn't look very good, but it's kind of coming together. Cool. So my first screen dot draw screen. So now what we need, let's put a background on this screen. And so we're just going to draw a dumb background really quick, just as a placeholder. So let's go to Aspirite. This guy's 32 by 32. Let's try to eyeball it. How much of the screen would you say that he takes up? Let's see. Oh, you know what? We should make sure that we can delete the screen too. So let's just real quick do after this we'll go my first screen dot delete screen. So this actually the sandwich will render and then unrender immediately. But I just want to see if that will kind of work. Good. He's deleted. We deleted him. Let's trust that that means that that basically worked. No. Okay. So we were going to make a really basic background. Oh, but I wanted to try to eyeball how much of the screen this 32 by 32 guy or the 64 by 64 guy is covering up right now. Which is maybe, boy, I don't know. This is a bad idea. He's not even, the trouble is he's not even taking up the full 64. 1, 2, 3, 4 maybe by like, give him a little 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 4 by, this is not particularly scientific. Out of interest, what is 4 times 64? 256. And we'll do also 64 times 8 is 512. Right? 256 by 512 is going to be the size of our background. Width 512. Height 256. I don't think that's right. I don't think this is a 1 by 2 screen. Almost certainly not. It's fine. Our background is going to be green. And we're going to draw some... Yeah, maybe this does need to kind of fit. If I look at like my preferences, is this where I've decided the screen? The aspect ratio? Scene view? I guess we don't really know. I guess because when you start up Unity, you can choose different aspect ratios. Hopefully when we make this like a web player, we'll be able to like lock it to a particular size. But I don't know. We might really get owned here. If people play this in a different size than we expect. That's okay. Let's stick with what we're doing for now. And we'll draw some more stuff here. So this will be our... No, that doesn't look good. Even for a placeholder, I have to have standards. This is our important background. As you can see, it is very well created. Everybody agrees this is fantastic. Okay, resources. We're going to call this screen 1. And it's going to be file type all formats. How can that be? File, save as, PNG file. Okay, so there's our background screen. And if we go... So in theory, we should be able to add a background by just adding a new character here, I think. So we'll go... We'll call this background. No, it has to be called screen 1. Screen 1. And we'll move it vector 3... New vector 3. We just want it to be based in the middle. If this works on like the first try, that would be cool. I don't think that it will. Let's see. That will have justified a lot of the work that we just spent doing, if it's that easy to add the background. Oh, yeah! Okay, the background does need to be taller, but it kind of worked. And it needs to be wider. Everything about the background needs to not be the way that it is right now. But that did kind of work. I guess we can just dial this in. What if we made this just a little bit wider and a little bit taller? And a lot taller. Sorry, I mean. So we guessed the height very wrong. We got pretty close on the width though, which is pretty funny because I don't know. I didn't expect it would go that way. Can I change the size? I don't like this program very much actually. Sprite properties, sprite size. So instead of being 512, we'll change this to, I don't know, 600. No, what's going to be divisible by 32? 512 plus 32 is 544. And our height is going to be a lot heightier. It's going to be 320. Oh, and so that just stretched it. And then can I save as and also export it as a PNG? Yes. Let's try that again. Let's see if that fits better. Almost. Honestly. We're wicked close. And if, out of interest, if I were to zoom... Oh, I can only zoom in, right? Let's not forget. So let's go... This is a really weird way to do this. Properties, square pixels, yeah. Properties. Sprite size. So instead of 320, let's change this to 352, which is divisible by 32, right? 32 goes into, 11 times. This is a weird one. Get ready for a weird aspect ratio, Rango. The number of tiles is probably going to be a little bit of a surprise. File exists, overwrite it, yes. Okay, and does that fit the whole screen? Bam. The only thing is, our dude is covered up this time. Whereas for some reason he wasn't before. This I don't know about. Let's go. We can look that up though really quick. Unity. Stop. Unity order of 2D sprites. 2D sorting. Unity renders according to a priority order that depends on their types and usages. You can specify the render order of the renders through the render queue. In general, there are two main queues, the opaque queue and the transparent queue. 2D renders are mainly through the transparent queue. Include sprite renderer, tile map renderer. Okay. Oh boy. The camera component sorts render based on projection settings to offset percent, blah, blah, blah. The distance, the render is the direct distance of the render from the camera's position. How do a sprite sort point is set to its center, and Unity measures the distance between the cameras. No. Sorting group is a component that groups renders which share a common root together for sorting purposes. All renders with the same have the tiebreaker is the order that Unity placed the renders in the render queue. Because it's an internal process that you have no control over, you should use the sorting options such as sorting layers and sorting groups. Okay, sorting layers. Tell me about sorting layers. The sorting layer and ordering the layer are available to all 2D renders through the inspector window or via the Unity scripting API. Sorting layer. Sorting layers are used in conjunction with sprite graphics in the 2D system. Sorting refers to add and remove sorting layers. Use the plus and minus buttons at the bottom of the list. Tags and layers. Oh, okay. We can do that. That's easy enough. Cool. So we can go to our Unity project and we can say layer. What the hell are these layers? Layer, add layer. So we can, they have built-in layers, which is weird. We'll have default be the background, and then we'll have characters. And then, why did they make it like this? Can I add a layer that's going to be not on top of the UI? That seems crazy. Oh, I don't want a layer, actually. I'm wrong. I want a sorting layer. Sorting layers. There we go. Default. Characters. earlier better or is later better? Change their order, drag them. Yeah. Sprite graphics. Sorting refers to the overlay order of different sprites. I guess we can just try both. Foreground, it looks like things that are deeper get rendered later. So we'll go default and we'll have characters. And then the player will always be on top of everything. No, let's actually go characters. So default will be our background. Characters and then foreground. And so, no, we'll go mid and foreground. So if most characters will be in mid, our player will be, we'll do player, that's what we need. That's what we need. Foreground. So most stuff is going to be mid, but player will go on top of most stuff. If we want to have stuff in the foreground, we have that option. So let's do that. So Rango, the number of tiles in a scene, if you're doing 32 by 32 tiles, it looks like we're going to want, it's 544 by 352. Hold up. It looks like it's going to be 17 by 11 tiles, which is weird, I know. I'll just write that in chat so I don't forget. 17 tiles. Tiles in a background if they're 32 by 32. I can't do it in this chat. Okay, fine. It's 11 by 17. But I think a lot of these we're just going to draw. Okay, so we can draw our background. We need to give them layers. Okay. And so let's look at sprite. And can I see our scripting API? I want to read about sprites and see where we define the layer. The sorting layer. Sprite, sorting layer. But I need sprite. Do you have the sorting layer here? You do not. Is it the sprite renderer? Has the sorting layer? Yes. Sorting layer ID. Okay. ID of the default sorting layer is always 0. How do I know what the sorting layer name? So is there like a public method for like set sorting layer? Name the renderer sorting layer. So I guess we'll try just setting that. So let's put in one last scene thing that your character needs is going to be the layer that we draw them at. So they're going to have the name, the translate vector, sorting layer, private string, I guess. Layer, name. The question is, does setting this property change it? Unity, sprite, set, sorting layer. In C#. Boom. Have a go at setting your sprite render sorting order equals 0. Change this encoder. Is that even possible? Somebody's just saying do it a different way, which you love to see. So maybe that's what we should just do. That's fine. So just skip the sorting layer and Unity programmatically. There's got to be a way. The sorting layer. So sorting layer is rather changed according to the renderer component. Name to ID. You set the link in a property of the render base class. Inherited properties. Okay, that's fine. So we need this. So it will have a sorting layer name, which is fine. And we'll say string layer name in. Good. Look at our good code. It's not very good. So our sorting layer name in sorting layer name equals sorting layer name in. Bam. And then, please. Then when we do scale in place, we'll do GoSR dot what is it? Lowercase sorting layer ID equals equals this name to ID of sorting layer name. Bam. So now when we draw these characters, we have to give them a sorting layer name. So let's actually do it like this. Let's rename these names to be, instead of mid-player default, let's call this character layer, player layer, and then foreground. So that way it'll be clear maybe what these names mean. Let's actually be explicit. So we'll have background, character, player, foreground. And we won't use this default layer at all, which was sort of my idea at the beginning to do that, but let's not do it. So now we can get the order of our sprites right. We should be able to go sorting layer name. And so when we declare our characters here, we will need to set their layer name, which means, for instance, if we look at our start, our player is going to need that layer name. So we're going to put this at player. Should we put layer in all of these names just so we know what they are? Even though it'll be longer. But it'll be obvious. It'll be more obvious reading the code what we're talking about. So like generally things are in, yeah, characters will always be behind the player, typically speaking. So we'll call this player layer, which is also just fun to say. And then here we'll have, this will take in the, so the screen one is going to be background layer. And then this is going to be at the character layer. And that should ensure that all of our stuff is sort of at a reasonable height. Why didn't you like that? Why are you now indenting this in a weirder way? IDE. That's fine. Let's actually do it like this then. Do we have to define our characters like this? It was nice to do them in one line. Layer, I hardly know her. Ugh. What's up, Panzu? We're trying to learn Unity kind of on the fly for this game jam we're doing. And so there's a lot of like, oh, wait a minute. Why aren't my characters appearing in the order that I expect? I thought they would just all appear in the order I put them down. It's like, no. You got to learn about this concept of layers. Good. This is my bad code. But you can see, so our first screen will have these two characters. We'll have the screen one and the sandwich. Let's see that screen one and that sandwich. But first, let's fix our compiler errors, of which we have apparently many. 51, 112, and 118. Okay. 51 has missing missing semicolon. What was 112 and 118? What? You don't like this? This is good. Invalid expression term. Close parenthesis. That's fine. Vector 3 dot down. No, that's fine. Can I build this? All compilers have to be fixed. At 112. They don't like my paren. But why? This is all good. Oh, is this not supposed to be here? No, we need this to close that bracket. At 112, they don't like this here. What have I done wrong? New character, screen, new vector, background layer, null. Do we not have enough close parens? We have enough. We just need that one, right? This closes that parenthesis correctly. Why this doesn't work anymore? One 12, 12, 118, 18. And it's the same thing here. It also doesn't like. Does not want me to put these commas. It shouldn't care about that. Sorting layer name does not exist in the current context. Okay, well, we got somewhere different at least. I guess I didn't want those parens. Sorting layer name, that is because I accidentally capitalized it. Programming. Bam. Okay, let's see our cool game right now. We should have our chef and a background and the sandwich, and we should be able to see all of those things because the background should not render in front of the characters. And our player should be on top of the sandwich. Bam! It's great. His clogs are just overlapping the background, but look, he's on top of the sandwich, so our rendering logic is working. This didn't work. Failed to find path untagged. Oh, you know what? So we set it up so if he's colliding with a character and we press space, we're supposed to try to load up the dialogue tree for that character. But the problem is it doesn't work because the background is also a character. And so it's like, oh, you're touching the background. And it tries to look up the tag for the background, and there isn't one. So what we need to do instead is say, either we can first make the background not be a character, not have collision. That would make a lot of sense. But it would be slightly more work than the other thing we could do, which is just have a check that says, hey, if you're colliding with me and I don't have... Because we also want background objects to not take us to a story, a part of the story, right? To not have a dialogue tree. So what we could do is on collision detected, we could just say, just add another case here. So if current not is null, which means that we're not in a story right now, and collider.gameObject.tag does not equal null. And the tag isn't null. So we check first, are we in an adventure? Does this have a null tag? Are you pressing space? If all of those things are true, then we can go to the story. And so this should make it so this should make it so that we can have a character without a dialogue tree. We still might want to change the background to not be a character because it is kind of overkill. But it's fine. Okay, so here's our guy. He goes up here. Failed to find at untagged. So is this not null? Let's read about game object tags in Unity. Scripting API. Show me what a tag is. What is a tag? No, if I go to game, let's go to game object, I guess, is where the thing that the tag is actually on. So it has a tag. Tag is a string. But is it just calling it untagged? So should I say doesn't equal untagged. Is that? So really, it does have a tag. The tag is just untagged. Is this what I'm to understand? Bam! There's our dialogue. You sit down to prepare another meal. Try to remember the recipe. Bam, we can click through our text, and now we're back in our game. All right, we got it. So we've got a scene that tells us to draw all of these things. We've got dialogue trees. We've got moving around. We can tell if we're touching a character. We're allowed to have, the characters don't have to have dialogue. These are placeholders, obviously. The characters don't have to have a dialogue tree attached necessarily, which is good. So we can use it to like draw little props and stuff, can also be characters. Cool. This code's getting a little bit crazy again. We kind of like spend a lot of time cleaning it up and then made it crazy. Let's make it a little bit more crazy before we make it uncrazy. So now the thing that we want is, we want to be able to say that we have more than one scene, right? So we've started with one character, and then we said, okay, we create this container class, which is a scene that has multiple characters. Now we want to say that scenes link together. And so this is how I think we should do it. I think we want to go screen. Let's give it a private field called a screen that is going to be a screen, and we'll call it north. So this is the screen that's going to be to the north, and you could probably guess. We'll have, please, mercy. We'll have a southwest, you know, whatever the other remaining directions. Famously, I never know what a direction is. Never eat sour wheat. Eat. Nope, east. What if I called them never eat sour wheat? South. West. Okay. So you can optionally have a screen at each of these, although it'll be null by default. So what we can do is, these are all private, right? So we could have, let's just make them public. That's just going to make my life easier. So that you can just, we could, so the right thing to do would be to add accessor methods. So we'll add like a get north, get east, get south, get west. Let's just make it public for now. We can clean that up later. And then we want a link method. So I want to make it, no, actually, let's not do that. Let's not make any methods for this. We'll just do this the old-fashioned way to start. And we can clean it up as it becomes clearer that this is the way that we want it to work. Then we can make this more robust. But for the first pass, let's just make it janky. So what we could do is we can have my first scene, right? My second scene will also have a screen called my second scene. And we'll say it's a new screen. It's also going to have a list of characters. It's going to be exactly the same, except maybe we'll just have a different background. So let's make a new background real quick with our insane aspect ratio, 544 by 352. So we'll go new, width 544, 352, bam. Here's our new background. So it just needs to be different so we can tell the backgrounds from each other. This isn't real. This is just our placeholder. So let's do, so the stakes are obviously very high. So let's make sure we get this exactly right as we do our background. Good. Looks really good with the squares there. Ooh, that actually looks so bad for some reason. Good. Bam. There's our new background. And we're going to save this as scene 2. On the first, you call it screen, and on the second part, you call it scene. That might confuse you later. Just a heads up. That is a very good heads up. Yeah, you're right. I've been mixing them up this whole time. Let's call everything a screen, because a scene is a thing in Unity. That was because I was calling it a scene at first, and then I changed it later. Absolutely a good call out. Thank you for that. Right, so new screen. So it's not a scene, it's a screen. Screen, screen, screen. Boom. So here's our screen, and then we need to save this as our PNG file. I'm not crazy about this program, actually. I thought this was going to make it really easy for us to do this art. I'm turning against it, I'll be honest. So our second scene is just going to have one character. It's just going to be this background, right? And again, we're hard coding a lot of this stuff right now. I swear someday we'll come back and get sort of organized. So new screen, it needs a list of characters. I was like, why is this formatting so good? It's good because we haven't declared the list. And so this needs also one of these. And now this, oh, this will all just indent. That looks actually, I mean, except for that looks okay. That's weird, but fine. I'll allow it. Okay, so our new one, it's going to be screen 2. And did we call it screen 2 or did we call it scene 2 because I'm dumb? We called it scene 2. God damn it. Let's do a little save as. And we will call this. This is a placeholder anyway. We're not going to be saving this. This is screen2.png is what I obviously meant to say. We're not going to be like editing it or making changes to that particular one. Okay, so the idea is we want these scenes to link together, right? So what we want to do is say my first screen dot, why did we call it that? That's fine. Dot north equals my second screen. And so this will be a one-way link. In real life, please, semicolon. In real life, we want these to probably always doubly link. But here for our first test, we're just going to make it so that if we go up to the top of the screen, the idea is we want to get rid of everything that's on this first scene and draw everything that's in the second scene. This might be a crazy way to link all of these together. I think that it will kind of work. If we get really ambitious, we can write up something that will convert from like a better format. Like we could, I don't know, put in a grid or draw a grid or something and link everything together correctly. But for now, let's do it by hand. So then we need to add this logic to the game, right? So what we need to know is, let's look at our weird little Unity scene and see what our X and Y values are for our character when he's up at the top of the screen. So here's our character. He's going to the top of the screen. Bam, he's here. If we look at our player, please, we're really interested in his Y value. So if he was like just about to go off, maybe like 5.5, 5.5 there would be our position. So let's just, we can hard code this. This is fine. Let's write this as a constant somewhere because I think we're going to use this in multiple places. So we'll put this, oh my God, this is getting huge. Oh, we really got to be more sensible about this. Let's make a little constant. We'll say top float probably. Float. We'll say top of screen. Screen top. Oh, we're mixing up screen and scene again. But we'll say screen top. So if you're at the top of the screen, that's going to be 5.5 F. Okay? Screen top Y. Screen top B. Screen to B. Good. Fine. What could go wrong? And down here, actually, let's look at this like a style guide real quick. C sharp. Constants. Style. Just so we can sort of do this kind of the right way. Naming convention for constants. I make it. Oh, we can do const is a thing. Okay, we can do that too. The answer, okay, is Pascal casing, which is like camel case, but I guess the first one is capitalized. Okay, so we can go check it out. Const float, and we can go screen top Y. Bam. That looks a lot more readable. And then we can do the rest of the directions later, but let's try to make this going north thing work first. So this is when we go to the dialog tree. Don't do that right now. I want, oh boy, move player all the way down here. We got to split this up over multiple files. It's getting crazy. So we've moved our player, right? This gets called every time we do an update. Should we have a different method for moving the screen? So this is going to, if it's time to move to a different screen, we will do that. So we'll say if player game object dot transform dot y is greater than, oh, wish we had an autocomplete here. What do we call it? Screen top y. Obviously, I'm not writing Python right now. So if we've got this, if we're past the screen top dot y and, oh, you know, we need like a current scene. So we'll do a, oh boy, we no longer need this sandwich go, but player game object we do still need to save. Oh boy. Okay, so let's get a little bit organized real quick. These are, what do we call these? Let's do it like this. Let's put all the dialogue, the ink stuff together, right? So we'll say this is story stuff. And that's all going to be here. So we've got our serialized field we're passing in this ink.json asset. We've got our story, the current not, and whether or not the story is waiting. Great. We can also have, I think I would have done that with an invisible overlap trigger that teleports you to another screen, since that way you can have more than just the 4 general directions in the future. As in if there's multiple screen exits to the north, or if there's a house or cave somewhere in the middle of the screen. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, so instead of just the top of the screen takes you to the next top place up, maybe we could have like multiple links. Yeah, an invisible overlap trigger. So the way we did, the way we're doing testing overlaps are really dumb because I didn't know really what I was doing. We started doing this yesterday. The way we're doing overlaps right now is literally we've got this, where is it? Behavior that we put on things called collide child. And so what it does is when I collide with something, I tell my parent that I collided. And we have a method in the parent that does a thing. So I've been trying to kind of keep all of the code in one place, but I'm really starting to see that that's not the intended kind of philosophy of Unity, I don't think. I don't think I'm supposed to write this all. I think I'm supposed to have a bunch of different behaviors on a bunch of different objects. But this just seems more easy for me to reason about at the moment. Okay, but that's not what you were saying. But you were saying you want different overlaps that can teleport us to other places. Yeah, so that we wouldn't necessarily just have these 4 cardinal directions. Let's write it this way for now and try to make this transition work. But I think that's a good point. Is that may be something that we want to expand upon later. Let's actually put that. Like you could have an invisible box on your character's feet and then boxes in places where you want to transition to another place. And if those boxes overlap, it teleports you. I got you. Yeah, let's say... I mean, your way isn't necessarily wrong, just different from how I probably would have done it. Right. I got you. We're trying to be very inspired by The Legend of Zelda. Although I guess potentially it's the same way. I can't remember. The original one. If there were multiple teleport points. Let's do it. I mean, things that we're missing also in this game right now is like collision, right? So like I don't collide with an object ever right now. So every screen I can go in every direction. Anyway, let's try to stand this up, but that might be a good extension for us to do. 248. Oh, we're in hundreds of lines of code. This is getting long. In a single file, I mean. 248. Okay, yeah. This is what we had here. So if we're past the screen and oh, we needed the current scene, right? Okay, that's what I was doing. I was pretending to get organized, but really I was just making more of a mess. Right. Let's leave these here. So the serialized fields, let's put them all at the top. I was wrong. We've got the story stuff here. Let's do, we'll call this game stuff. Good. What better label could you possibly have? And then we'll have all our classes. So our player game object is here, and we've also got our constants here as well. So screen top Y, we also need a screen, current screen. So it's going to tell us, so just as we have our current not in the story, we have a current screen here. Let's Then again, I've never made games, lol. I have dabbled, but never finished even as much as a demo. We're doing a game jam right now, so we're just trying to throw together something. I think I was really overambitious, just in coming in without enough experience in Unity. And so we've been taking a lot, like, I'm worried, honestly, that we're not going to finish this in time. So it's due Monday, but probably, I mean, I got work on Monday, so really we got to do this Sunday. Um, and I'm spending a lot of time just like figuring out Unity stuff, to a degree, which is slowing us down a lot. Okay, so we're going to the top. Right, we're doing it. We've got our current screen. So our current screen, let's go screen. Oh my God, start. Set this my first screen to the current screen. My first screen. Bam, it is done. So our current screen and current screen dot north. So if there's somewhere for us to go north, I'm decent at figuring out how to do things in a way that I can explain, but I struggle so much with syntax and stuff that I can never actually make it myself. It's tough. It's like, yeah, I'm having a hard time with. We spent, for instance, a really long time on like deciding just how to move, right? So we were stuck for a while. Like, okay, do I make it so that like when I first press the button, then I start moving in a direction, and then when I release, we stop? How do we make it? Do we let you go diagonal? If we do let you go diagonal, do you go at double speed? Like, yeah, even figuring out the little things, we're spending a lot of time on trying to get that syntax just right, and that logic just right as well. So if we're up at the top of the screen and there's somewhere for us to go, then we want to move the screen. And so the way that we move the screen is by player dot. You know what we need? We need a okay. So we'll make it like a nice animation in a bit. But first, let's just teleport you to the bottom of the screen. Let's not make it. Let's make it work before we make it pretty. So how do we do that? Do we think that the bottom of the screen is probably negative 5.5? That seems probably true, right? And we'll find out if we were wrong afterwards. We'll go screen bottom Y. Right? That's the middle of the screen is 0, right? Is negative 5.5. What could go wrong? Down here we've got our, so the first thing we do when we move screen, so this is going to be go north, right? And we'll say player dot transform dot translate. Could we just set the Y? I think that works. Let's find out. Maybe the game will say, please don't do that. Maybe the engine will say, please don't do this. I remember when I did a Unity tutorial many years ago, I could not for the life of me figure out how to move a 3D character relative to the camera and not relative to the world. Oh, interesting. Annoyed me so much. I tried it for half a day and then rage quit, lol. We're having, yeah, I mean, the Unity specific stuff is really, really tough to figure out. I think that a lot of the tutorials will tell you exactly how to build something in a particular way. Like, this is my experience so far, but like, don't do as good a job at like explaining what the thing actually does. It'll be like, okay, add a canvas, add a horizontal layout group, set the settings to this, this, and this. Now you've got it working, but it doesn't like tell us what those do or how to set them up. And so like, we spent a lot of time, you'll see we have those little dialogue trees. They look really bad. Then the text is like right up against the sides and stuff, but it's just like figuring out how to add margins and padding and stuff and like make the canvas work and the vertical layout group work and the canvas scaler. Like, understanding how all these Unity specific concepts work is a real bugbear, a real pain. Okay, so we're going north. So if current screen, no, player transform.y, be cool. Screen, bottom, Y. So we just set them down to the bottom of the screen. Then what we need to do is we need to say current scene. We'll say it's current screen, right? Okay, current screen. Current screen dot destroy. So we're destroying all the objects from this current scene. which we call delete screen. So current screen dot delete screen. Current screen equals current screen dot north. And then we'll go current screen dot draw scene dot draw screen. These are methods. So the idea is we go to the top of the screen, and it should whip our guy down to the bottom, delete all the characters that are part of this screen, and then draw the characters that are part of the new screen. And so if this works, what will happen is we'll go to the top of the screen, the weird little sandwich and the green background will both go away and be replaced by the gray background. And our guy will whip down to the bottom. However, at line 74, we have a syntax error. What have I done wrong? Yeah, the number 4 probably doesn't need to be there. That seems like a typo. Okay, here we go. 250. Transform does not contain a definition for y. Okay, that makes sense. That is probably true. If I go to Unity transform, GameObject has a transform, right? So I should be able to get it from, can I get there from here? Transform. It's a transform. Can I just, oh, do I need the position? Ooh. Okay, let's translate it down. F it. We're going to translate it down by 11 because that's the number. Transform. So dot .y doesn't exist. Oh, but I do need that. Transform dot. Yeah, it was so annoying. I could only find world relative stuff for top-down games and character relative stuff for tank controls. And I wanted console-style controls. Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, it's a lot to figure out. I think for something like that, unfortunately, it's not like a fun way to do it. But I think like what we've been doing here is just trying stuff, clicking, settings on and off and seeing what's happening. And it is a hell of a process, but we're kind of getting somewhere. Although a lot of the stuff, I mean, it's like, okay, we've got, for our polished stuff, it's like, okay, we have like the UI elements, they work. They convey all the information, but they look bad. That's also our rule number 1. If it looks bad, that's fine. But we got to come back and fix that. Movement speed, we need to come back and fix that. The hitboxes, we got to come back and fix that. Man, oh man, oh man. Okay, so we can't get the Y that way. That's dumb. You're not allowed to do it. It is forbidden. How do I get the Y instead? Translate, public methods. There's got to be like a position, right? Local position relative to the parent transform. That should be fine. Position. Does that position have an X? Is a vector 3. So a position. Can we get the... Oh, it does have an X, Y, and Z. Dope. Okay, so we can go .position.x or position.y, and let's see if this will work. They still might not like me changing this manually, but let's find out. They might want me to do that through a method. The name player does not exist in the current context. You're totally right. That should be player go for player game object. Unity. Cannot modify the return value of because it is not a variable. Fair. Okay, no worries. So we do need to translate this, right? No easy way to like set X, set Y. Something like that. Dot min max move towards project. All right, that's fine. You know what? I can do this. Dot translate. Vector 3. We'll get our hands dirty. We'll just do this the stupid way. New vector 3. X 0.0. Y negative 11. 0.0f. It's going to be jank. Z 0.0f. We need one more paren. Okay, so now the idea is we whip our dude down by -11, and hopefully that puts him at the bottom of the screen, or else it puts him somewhere else. Stupid. I seem to be decent at polishing things, but getting the start point done is where I struggle the most. Oh, okay. I once did a 2D tutorial that taught a few ways of doing 2D cameras that do more than just keep the character in the middle of the screen. And once I was done with that, I actually changed a lot and came up with my own way to make a really nice, super smooth camera. I helped some friends in the past, too, with fixing up some jank in their games, but I just can't get anywhere on my own. Oh, I see. Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of what we're seeing, too. I mean, honestly, we're working the same way. Like, the right-hand panel here, a lot of the time has been, where is it? This file here. We've been working from a lot of code that we stole from somewhere else. And by stole, I mean this is from the Ink GitHub project. Trying to do the same thing, just take out parts that work and make it, yeah, getting started from a totally blank slate, agreed, is like super hard. Let's see if this works. I think that it won't. I think something funny will happen, probably with the position of the player. Okay, so here's our fantastic game. As you can see, it is a work of unmitigated genius. Now we go out, now the moment of truth. It did not work. What's his Y? Player, transform, player Y. It's up past 5.5. Oh, you know what? I'm super dumb. So remember we wrote this function move screen? You know what we got to do with this function move screen? We got to call it. Would probably be good. Yeah, that would be good. Might help. So if we're not in a knot, we can do move screen. Oh, it's good. It's fun to work really hard on something and then just be like, oh wait, I forgot to do the most obvious, simple, natural part. Okay, here's our man. Here he is. We talked to the bread. We don't really need to do this right now, but that's fine. He goes up to the top. Moment of truth. Bam! Oh, yeah! Now, there's a lot of problems with this. Problem number one, presumably he would, if we put in the south logic, he would presumably whip right back down again. Huge! Yeah. But he'll probably whip right, like he'll probably be teleporting back and forth constantly if we just do the same thing and have like a thing here. So how do we fix that? Do we make it so you have to go away, or we make it probably so you teleport further forward than the zone, right? So if like, so yeah. So if our player is at, please. I mean, he's got to go way down to be off the screen, in fairness. So if we whip him down, instead of by 11, by like 10.5, that should give him a little bit of a margin. Okay. So let's go negative 10.5. And then we'll make it, we'll do the south thing too, and we'll just watch going back and forth between those scenes and see if that's going to work. All right, here we are. We go north. Bam. Now here I am. All right, now let's do going south, and we'll whip back and forth between them, and won't that be fun and nice? This will be hard-coded for now. I guess we'll deal with it. So we can just copy this. We can say, if you're ready to go south, you can go south. And then we can do all the rest. And then we'll be set to make a little area that we can walk around, make little dialogue trees. That'll be about it for what we can do at the moment. And so this all needs to be less than screen bottom Y, and current screen dot south does not equal null. Then delete the screen, send me to the current screen dot south. Oh yeah, no, let's it's repetitive, but let's leave this in just because it's fine. We'll clean it up later. So we'll go, east and west. We'll have to define some of these constants that we're going to need here. So actually, we'll do this in a second. Yeah, so we'll get our going south working. What I'd like to see is if we can make it so our character... Let's have this south be null and make sure that this check works right now. So let's make sure that our player won't try to TP if there's nothing to the south. I guess that would we could already test that because this first scene won't have anything to the south of it. We go up here, we go down here, and nothing happens. Great. There he is. There's... It's kind of coming together. There's our chef. Cool. Let's do our... what do we need? We need to... I want to link these scenes together, north, south, and south, north. So we go... my second screen dot south equals my first screen. We'll do linking screens together. And then our sorting layer name, translate layer, blah 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 blah. I wanted to we need to take the temperature on how far east and west we're allowed to go before we teleport. 5.5 might be too far. It's fine for the north and south. That's gonna be a good one to polish too. We'll add that to our list of things to polish. Player. So when he's over here, his X is like 8. We'll call it 8. And then we'll make a polish note to go back and dial those borders in. So we'll say screen right. Let's do screen right X is going to be 8.0f, and screen left X. Whoa, it's coming along! Yeah, we're doing it. We're getting it together. What's going on, Unwise Bird? We're just getting the engine on. I think that I need to think harder about what the actual content of the game will be, but we're getting it to kind of work. I'll show you what we have right now. Just a second. Let's just put in this go north and go south, or this go east and go west. Did I call those X? I did. Thank God. Cool. So we'll say go. Now we've made a terrible mistake by calling these north, south, east, west, and top, bottom, left, right. We probably wanted to stick to one naming convention, but we'll fix it later. So if our X is beyond the screen, is greater than the screen right X, and current screen dot east. This is good, actually. This will help me learn my east and west, which I definitely just always struggle with. Instead of going back negative 10.5, we'll go back, holy smokes, it was 8, so 16, 15.5. So we slide it back to 15, and we'll say that this will now go to the east. And then similarly for the west, we'll say if your X is greater than the screen, is less than the screen, less than the screen left X. Good, that's right. And current screen dot west does not equal null. Then you translate 15.5 forward, and you go to the west. And none of these should do anything right now because there's no scenes to the east or west. But let's see what we've got from that. Let's see those compiler errors. Hit me with them. Show me compiler errors. Looks good for compiler errors. So here's what we've got right now on Wisebird. I haven't gotten very much done today. We've got scenes are lists of characters that are just like little stickers that we put on the screen. The background is a character. We can tell when characters are overlapping. We can press spacebar if we're overlapping with a character, and if they have a dialogue tree attached to them, it'll bring it up. So we can talk to our little boy here, and this is badly formatted, but at least it's coherent. The buttons show all of the text. Try to remember the recipe. Where are you from? You see this text is appearing. It's pretty bad. We should probably put like a darkening effect, maybe behind the UI. We'll see if that's something we can do. But then we go to the north, and there's a new area. And we go to the south, and there's a new area, and the sandwich is back. And you try to go to the east and west, and nothing will happen, and nothing will break, because there's nothing to do over there. Good. So let's put that in polish before we forget, which is going to be dial in screen edges. is definitely something we want to do to try to make the game just feel better. Oh my god. I love it. I was saying we were gonna like slide everything over, but honestly, let's do this for now. Let's put that as polish. We'll say polish, dial in screen edges. We'll say amazing, yeah. Animate. We'll say slide screen. Transition. So like again, like our Zelda one, would be cool if we could do it. Not a priority. Okay. What else do we need? We need to put limits on how far our little man is allowed to go on the screen. Let's do that right now. We also need... So actually, out of interest, can I just put like a collider on... If I put a box collider on our boy, the sandwich, what will that do? Will that cause them to hit each other? And then we can do collide or no collide as something that we pass in on a character. Let's actually not do it this way because we're going to collide with a background. I was going to put it on every character to start, but I just realized colliding with the background is probably not what we want. So let's do it like this. How can we make our... That would be awesome if we could just use the collision detection. It looks great. Thanks. It's a work in progress. If we had our... So screen, my first screen has this sandwich on it, right? So let's do it like a draw screen. When I draw screen, can I get at those game objects that are inside the screen? Add to scene. No, not really. We're hiding them. So we're abstracting away the actual game objects, which I think is fine, except for what I want to do right now. So let's do it, okay, real quick. Bool is collide. Bool collides. Collides in. And we'll say private bool collides in equals no. We'll just let it be here. So we say collides. This should just be collides, not collides in. Okay, it's happening. Collides in equals... Nope, collides equals collides in. Beautiful code. Not stupid at all. Great. So you tell us whether or not it collides. And we'll say add collision. If collides, then we do the collision stuff. And so we will get our... I'm not crazy about constructors taking Boolean arguments, but we're going to do it. Especially as this is getting longer and longer. Maybe that's something we can set separately. I don't know. This constructor is getting a little bit incomprehensible with just the amount of stuff that we're putting on it, but we'll see. So we'll do this. So if it collides, then you need to add a rigid body 2D, set the parent to this transform, and add component collide child. No, only player go needs collide child. So let's say player character dot go. If we're only doing this one thing with it, then let's not assign it to a variable. And we'll just say player character dot go dot add collide child. So this is the special thing that shoots off the script whenever our player is touching something. Okay, and this needs to not be player go. These all need to change to just go. 1, 2, 3. Watch them change. Great. Anything else we need to do there? Yes, we need to, when we write these characters, we need to say whether or not they collide. So the background does not. Yeah, that's hard to read because like what does that even mean? And like you can monkey patch it, not monkey patch, but you can kind of put a band-aid on it by doing like a little comment. But it's not good practice, is it? So the sandwich does collide. You know why this isn't going to work? Check out what's going to happen. Because our trigger logic needs these guys to be overlapping. And so we'll never be able to... Okay, so the rule will have to be, if something has a dialogue tree, it doesn't collide. I think that's going to have to be, like, a thing. If we make no changes to our engine here, let's see what happens. So we say on the second screen, the background doesn't collide. Great. And our character also should be, he collides with stuff. That's, in fact, required. And let's just space this out a little bit so we can see it a little bit better. He has no tag. Collides. Okay. Let's see if this causes our characters to collide into each other. Presumably does not contain a definition for transform at line 81. What have I done wrong? Go.transform.setParent. No? This.transform. What do they not like about it? Character does not contain... Oh, shoot. This dot... Oh. This needs to be this... Oh, this we only need for our player. That's fine. So we can go... Because this is just to make our little collision script fire. So player character.go.transform set parent. Cool. And that should be fine. That's a problem that I don't think we have to solve. All right, so what we want to see is our character bump into the peanut butter man, or to the sandwich man, even though... All right, well, they don't like what we've done here. Not set to an instance of an object. TypeScript.move screen. Why are you trying to move my screen now? At 267. If screen.y, current screen.north. This is at line 267. Here. Oh, is current screen not been set? Player go.transform. Oh, we need to set player go. I'm wrong. Okay, I thought we didn't have to set it because we didn't need to do things to it here. But we need it elsewhere, of course. So on our start, we do need to set player go. So we say player go equals player character.go. You know what would be the smart way to do this? And then we go player go dot add component. This needs a semicolon. And player go dot transform. Okay, I think that will do it. And so we won't be able to do the dialogue tree right now, but we hopefully will bump into the dude. What will happen when we bump into him? I don't know. I'm sort of afraid that he will bounce off of us. Nope. Problem solved. All right, how do we make him actually hit us? Maybe we need to look at this. So let's first confirm. He does collide, and so does our player. And if we have somebody who collides, we add component rigid body 2D, rigid body gravity scale. So let's look at rigid body 2D. That's our next stop, I think. Rigid body 2D. Rigid body 2D. Is there like a I crash into things? Is kinematic. Simulated. Add force, add torque. Wow. Oh, man. Let me just handle these quick contributors we have in our chat. It's very exciting to see you all. The enthusiasm for the stream is really just... it's been an outpouring. Can I see my stream chat? No. Can I do this from here? This is not my most current stream chat. Why no? Why no? Hmm. Unfortunately, I'm not like logged in. Okay, hold up. Wait, we're gonna fix this real quick. Let me just log into this. Um, just take a second. So we can ban these people, which is what we really want. So if I try to type something in chat, it's gonna say you're not logged in. I will log myself in, off screen. It'll ask me for... I'm a little worried. I want to make sure that I'm not secretly doxing myself. Okay, I need to put in my two-factor stuff. Just a moment. I thought I was going to be able to do that from the Twitch app, but I guess it didn't work. Okay. And now, can I ban people? Welcome to the chat room. Thanks, man. I'm going to ban some people. Bam. Don't say unable to fetch account. And ban. Cool. And we didn't ban anybody who is real. Great. 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 Fixed. Cool. What are we doing? Reading about rigid bodies. Constraints, drag. So what we could do is we could say... I mean, I do want these things to, like, hit each other. So let's do destroy. No. We don't want these. Position rotation. Center of mass. Collision detection mode. What are the options? Discrete. Only collisions at the new position are detected. Ensures that all collisions are detected. That is good and important, I guess. Freeze rotation, gravity scale, inertia, interpolation, hits things, yes or no? How do I make it? Oh, it needs the box collider. I'm dumb. It's going to be on the box collider. Box collider 2D, even. Is going to be where we decide if things hit each other. And so when I look at this box collider that we've set up here, is trigger is true. Is collider configured as a trigger? What does that mean? It's a secret to everyone. Does that mean it doesn't hit stuff? Bounciness, bounds, density. Oh, you know, we could let's mess with these options in Unity while it's running. That might be a fun way to dial this one in. Okay, so we've got our player. Our player has a box collider. I'm going to say if this is not is trigger, and if the sandwich's box collider is also not is trigger, then will they hit each other? They do. That is what works. That's not quite what I expected to happen. But, yeah, that looks pretty good. I mean, it messes up my controls, too, when he rotates. Perfect. Just what we wanted. Let me just try to rotate him back the right way. Oh, man. That is not what I expected. Oh, and look, now this is a new guy. He doesn't collide anymore. Okay, so... it's looking like a game. Yeah, we're doing it. We're kind of doing it. So what we need is to say if something collides, then we need to do change is trigger. So if collides is trigger is true. And otherwise it's not true. So our player character, oh, we want him to collide though. So how do we make it? Yeah, so we just need to make a difference. So this is the rule. New rule introduced. A character that has a narrative tree, like a dialogue tree, never collides. Things that are obstacles do collide. And those are the rules. So let's add a little obstacle to our game in the second room. Maybe. Let's put it in the first room, actually, in the interest of keeping the development time a little bit tight. So say new. Let's just do one that's like 32 by 32. We're going to build just like a little block. Here it is. It's the orange block. that looks all gross. Everybody loves it. Everybody needs it. It's the gross orange block. Bam. This is a fill. Bam. And then it needs some little textures inside. Obviously, naturally, it requires these things. Bam. This is our item that we hit. Great. We're going to call this block. And then we're going to go File, Save As. We're going to save that block as a PNG. And we're going to clear out all these assets at some point when we start building the actual content here. So here's our block. And we will add this block to the first scene. Let's do that. Where do we do that? Here in Start. So our first screen is going to have another character. So this collides is false. And this collides is true. This is a block. It has no tag. It's at the character layer. It is block. And it's not going to be at 2.0. It's going to be 2.0 to the right. Okay, let's see if that much worked. So I'm hopeful we'll be able to put together these scenes and these dialogue trees pretty fast once we have all this kind of framework set up. But we'll see if we ever get there. So there's our block. I can go right through it because my man is not a oh, he has to collide. Oh no, he does collide. True collides, true collides. And we'll say if collides. Oh, that's wrong. If not collides, then we make it a trigger. Right? Because making a trigger makes it not be a collision thingy. Let's see. Let's get this working, and then we'll probably break for lunch for like an hour. And come back. All right! But can I now talk to this guy? I can. So what we need to do is, whoops. All right. We need to make it so, oh man. We don't want our man to rotate. We probably don't want this physics object to rotate either or get moved around, although it's kind of funny. This looks like almost more like a game, doesn't it? Whoa! Oh, you know why? Because it's he's rotated, so it's teleporting him in a really weird way. Because his whole frame of reference has changed based on his rotation. That's kind of funny. Instead, we can freeze their rotation, though, right? That was an option in here. Freeze rotation, box collider 2D, bounciness, bounds, trigger. I swear there was something for, oh, maybe it's on the rigid body. Here we freeze rotation, and that's a Boolean, I assume. So let's do for, we'll go, if we do that, we turn off gravity, of course. We go freeze rotation is true. Lowercase equals true. So these characters won't rotate. And can I like freeze its position in place too? I know that's not quite be taken out of physics control. This property is true. The rigid body will stop reacting to collisions and applied forces. Then sometimes needs physics for realism. What if we just make its mass incredible? That doesn't seem like the right thing. Let's say unity, freeze, rigid body in place. Freeze position. Rigid body constraints. Oh, how do I do that? Rigid body dot constraints. Oh, is there a constraints? Is that an old thing? Wait, window. Oh my god. Tabs. We have too many. This is our rigid body constraints. Oh. The controls which degrees of freedom are allowed for the simulation of the rigid body. Allowing rotation and movement. Okay, what are all my choices for rigid body constraints 2D? Freeze all. That's what we want. Bam. Freeze rotation, freeze position. So we'll say dot constraints equals rigid body constraints 2D dot freeze all. Rigid body constraints 2D dot freeze all. You know what might happen here is our dude might not be able to move. Let's see. Does not exist. Rigid body constraints 2D. No? Yeah, it's got to be a lowercase b. Okay. Oh, man. Please. My option key, still broken. Okay. Rigid body constraints 2D. Show me. What will this do? This will either not work and they'll move through each other, or we won't be able to move our character. That's my prediction. There you go. What if we... Right. Freeze motion. Okay, new idea. Let's go. Unity, rigid body, wall. Somebody wants object, goes through wall. Both have rigid body and collider. Bam, this person says, there are a lot of possible reasons for it. Velocity add force. The last two are the only ones that prevent you from walking through anything. I see that your player's rigid body is kinematic. Oh boy. Maybe this isn't what we want to, how we want to try to do this. Placing transform manipulation. This seems like a good idea. Rigid body sticks to walls. Rigid body sticking to walls. Stuck to walls. Sticking to walls. What I want is to make a rigid body that... Unity. Rigid body. Let's go floor. Somebody's like, how do I make it from falling through terrain? Ground with a rigid body and place a collider on it instead. Your ground probably does not need to react to physics, but your object will need to react to physics, so it will need a rigid body on it and a collider as well. You can place physics material on the ground collider to either apply friction and or bounciness to your player or game object. I've removed the rigid body from the terrain. I think part of the problem was that I was placing rigid body along with the character controller. I've removed the rigid body from the player game object. It seems to be working fine now. Oh. Right, so if we take out this line though. Okay, let's mess with some of these options in the debugger. Cuz we need walls or something probably. It's not mandatory that we have that, but it sure would be good. Okay, so this makes them bump into each other. And this works great. This doesn't collide. But I want that little block to not move anymore. So if I go block, rigid body 2D, constraints, freeze X, Y, and freeze rotation. That works. But my character is now, he rotates still, which we don't want. So if we, that's close to what we want. If our player were to also have constraints like that, this broke it before, right? Or we could freeze his rotation. Ah, that's what we need. Bam. So we freeze his rotation, but we don't freeze his X and Y. Bam. That's it. That's the secret sauce we need. And then he'll bounce off. And that'll be how we do walls. Boom. Bada bing, bada boom. So, let's do it like this for interestingness. So this is going to have freeze all, but what's going to happen is for our player, we're going to make a special case of this. We're going to go back and change this. And we're allowed to do that for the player because I make the rules. And the rule is the player gets to have all kinds of special logic. So we'll go player go, go.getComponent rigidbody2d.constraints. This should be just freeze rotation. So we get to do special player stuff. And just for fun, let's put this block on the next scene instead of the first one. And that will be our little demo of stuff we can do, and then we'll call it for lunch there, if that all works. If all these things work, if colliding works and dialogue trees work, and going from screen to screen work, then I think we've got enough pieces to make a game, which is exciting. So here we go. First things first, we move around to the dialogue tree. We do these things. We talk, we do the dialogue ends. Great. We go up to the next screen. There's a block here. You try to go to the block, you can't go past the block. The block stops you. It's great. We go back down here. Here's our character. He's back where he was again before. We go back up here. This is broken too. You try to go up, nothing happens. So what do we want to do? I guess on some screens we'll put like walls around, or do we want to make it a rule? I guess we should always draw walls if we don't want you to go somewhere. That seems fine to me. This is our game. This is our framework. Let's define this as like the boundaries of what our game will do. And now we can write a game. This afternoon. Anything else that we want to do right now before we go take a break? Let's look at our list of things that we want to do and see if there's anything to change there. So if we go to our margin around UI elements, anything else that we want to do for so what have we done? We've done screens that slide. We have technically done this. Scenes need to have a cast of items. We've done this. A background. We did that by just making them one of the items in the scene, but that kind of works. How scenes link together, that's done. We've got our scenes linking together, so we can make a whole grid. A whole little maze of scenes if we wanted to. We have things that are colliding. Then our polish margin around UI elements, dial in movement speed, dial in hitboxes. Yes, we should try to do those things. Dial in screen edges. Slide screen transition would be nice. Filters or particles to make it look more good would also be good. Okay. How does the dialogue... Should the dialogue do anything back to the game world? Like at the end of a dialogue, should something come out of it? Let's actually decide that this afternoon. I think this is a good place probably for us to call it right now. We have pieces of something that will work. I'll fuss around. I'll clean up the code and stuff a little bit, maybe in between. But let's do this. Let's say it's 1:30 Eastern Standard. Nope, it's 1:22 Eastern Standard Time right now. Let's say we'll be back at 2:30 Eastern Standard Time, so in just a little bit over an hour. And I'll have a good think about what actual content we can put in our game. And we can start drawing some levels and writing some dialogue trees and drawing some pictures. Should be pretty good. Let's do that. Let's make that in order. We'll say, so then lunch, then we'll say, then content, we'll say placeholder, art, then art. Art? Question mark? So we'll just throw in placeholders for all of the art that we need. Maybe even for placeholder art / dialogues. So we'll just say like, this is where you'll have this dialogue. And then we'll do then art, then dialogues, then art. And that's good because the dialogues are important because, again, our number one rule is if it looks bad, that's fine. Nice. Cool. We'll call it there. It's coming together. I was really worried about this last night. I was like up all night, laying in bed, like, how do I fix this? How do we get back on track? There's still a lot to do and not a lot of time, but we have the framework to do it. We can start actually like creating the content that's going to be in our game. and that's very exciting. So we'll be back at 2:30 again in just a little bit over an hour to do that. Perfect. So I guess until then, until 2:30, I will. Where is it? Bam. See you later.